At this moment, the world has entered the ice age. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251. The huge eye of the wind is continuously shrinking, the wind is surging, the huge sea is tumbling, and the catastrophic scene continues to happen. When energy was continuously emitted from the giant launch pad, the superstorm changed miraculously. The storm gradually split into several strands and flew to the eastern continent in varying degrees. Oh my god, it's incredible. The storm has split. Damn. What did I see? What is going on? What is going on? Am I watching a science fiction movie? Gosh, this is us. The confrontation succeeded. Surprised from the people of the east, the whole east is boiling. Although the visibility is very low under the shooting conditions, everyone can vaguely see in this kind of weather that the original storm wind gradually weakens, and then an amazing scene occurs. The superstorm can sweep the entire east of the devastating disaster. At this moment, it was in a state of several storms, flying to various places in the eastern continent. Although the superstorm has not been completely frozen, the plan to win the midnight should be the case. It is only used to reduce the power of the superstorm, but even so, it is amazing enough, because no one has dared to fight the storm and put it into action since ancient times. At this moment, the West has no time to take into account the situation in the East and cannot notice this shocking and stunning scene for everyone. The giant launch pad in the East opened to fight against the superstorm. It's incredible. No one has ever done it. The East not only produced a giant launch pad, but also successfully fought against a superstorm. After the superstorm separated several strands, the largest superstorm headed towards the center of the east of the continent, and the others flew to the edge of the continent respectively. Although the power of the storm is reduced, it continues to advance at a speed of 24 meters per second. Wherever it passes, the wind is surging, the huge sea is tumbling, and the horror is abnormal. As these storms approached, all the projects in the east were trembling slightly. Bang bang bang. After another round of 20 giant launch pads was launched to minimize the power of the superstorm, the project completed its mission. The opening of the long cannon that emits energy is still exuding crystals, gradually cooling down. In the violent cold wind, it silently guarded the continent like a steel giant, allowing the cold wind to cut its surface like a knife. Near it, a successful directional rocket was installed long ago, and the directional airship was trembling slightly in the cold wind. It's just that they are not used to deal with superstorms, but have other uses when the split superstorms swept to the east. Another extreme weather was brewing behind it. The real dark clouds were covered with thunder and lightning flashing through them. The sky and the earth changed color, and the crystals fell one after another upon closer inspection. It was hail that was bigger than basketball, a terrible hail. The biggest hail in the civilization period was only a little bigger than an egg, which was already very scary. The hail fell, and the cars were smashed into small holes one after another. At the same time, when the hail was dense, countless trees collapsed. Land, houses have been damaged to varying degrees. There was once a hailstorm in the civilization period. Countless livestock died in this hailstorm. The horror of the hail can be seen, not to mention that this hail was the size of a basketball. Everyone could not imagine that under extreme weather, the degree of hail was so terrifying. Moreover, the extreme weather did not stop, but continued to worsen. The hail in one area has reached the size of a wheel. Pieces of hail fell on the water, splashing countless sprays. In the endless ocean, this scene is exceptionally magnificent. The people of the east would never think that in the superstorm, there is another extreme weather approaching. However, none of this is important anymore. Everyone has done everything that can be done, and the rest is left to these super projects. The speed of the storm is very fast, and the winds are surging, and the huge sea is tumbling wherever it passes. It has not been completely close to the eastern continent. The eastern inner city and the coastal cities can feel its horror. In particular, artificial islands bear the brunt of disasters at this moment. The artificial islands bordering the west of the mainland are surging with the huge sea, like a roller coaster, which is frightening. And frightening point, the whirring wind sounded as if the residential building was going to fly off in the next second. Point as the disaster drew closer. All the people in the east on the island followed up and faced the upcoming disaster with a pale face. One of the giant storms separated by the superstorm. Point at 1950, the first giant storm officially entered the eastern continent. Point bang bang bang. One of the houses in the residential building closest to the wall has an elderly parent, a newborn child, and a young couple. Faced with the imminent disaster, their whole family chose to sit together and leaned closely together. Together, the young child opened his eyes wide in his mother's arms, not realizing that the devastating disaster had arrived. Point the young man, of the head of the family, hugged his young mother tightly. Then, looking out the window, he felt a violent cold wind blowing on his face, and the entire sky was plunged into darkness. Bang 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 bang, various sounds mixed together. Personal motherland, please bless us, the young father whispered in his heart. Point clang, bang, 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 bang. The family sat on the sofa and stopped steadily. Point outside the house, various buildings began to shake violently under the storm. Lihao, the wind turbine spins rapidly in the cold wind, exceeding the maximum limit that it can withstand in the past. The staff inside the wind turbine is terrified and at the same time extremely worried. Point the wind turbine project is too huge. If it is damaged, then the entire island people will follow in danger. Motherland, please bless us, the staff clenched fists with both hands. Bang 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 bang, the wind is surging, the world changes color, and every second is suffering. Point at 2000 hours on May 27th. 11th year of the Ice Age, a pleasant voice announced the time of the moment. Point tick. Tick, the house was in a mess. Is this passing? After a long time, someone said. Chapter 252. The 11th year of the Ice Age at 2001 on May 27th. Point at this moment, the disaster has just begun, and it has just landed on the eastern continent. Point the artificial islands bordering the west of the mainland bear the brunt. After a devastating 10 minutes, the storm swept past the artificial islands and then headed towards the mainland. Several giant storms that were broken up by the giant launch pad landed on the eastern continent differently before and after. The power of the storm is huge. One after another, countless currents are rolled up and mixed into them, forming a huge water column. Boom boom boom, they are the first to hit the mainland steel. The wall of barriers, the 4,000-kilometer continental barrier, has been on the front line of the eastern continent since the Ice Age. Point solid, upright, speechless, silently confronting all the disasters that occurred in the Ice Age. Point until now. Point at 2005, the first powerful storm hit the mainland steel barrier. Boom, make a huge dull sound in the fierce storm. The 100-meter high continental screen 253 made a dull sound and shook slightly. At this time, the sky and the earth changed color, the wind rolled clouds, the huge sea was tumbling, and the weather was extremely bad. The satellites above the earth continued to pay attention to the situation in the east, and the white vortex began to move to the east. Point in the white whirlpool, extreme weather changes are constantly attacking the eastern continent. Point the huge water column rushed to the mainland barrier and made the first contact with the mainland barrier. Bang, bang bang bang, all kinds of dull sounds came. Point it was as if the devil was knocking on the east window. And the huge dull sound could be heard on the third floor where the giant launch pad, which occupies two areas closest to the mainland barrier, where Win Midnight is located. Point then, as far as I could see, the violent cold wind blocked the sight of everyone on the third floor. After the storm completely descended to the east, the dense visibility decreased again, and I could only see a range of about 1 meter in the line of sight. Point in the third layer, everyone was silent, waiting for the storm to come. After the mainland and the westerners surmounted the first superstorm, the mainland barrier successfully blocked the water column created by the first superstorm. Point when the first superstorm continued to sweep the east, it crossed the steel barrier of the eastern continent, and the water column range was significantly reduced, but the storm trend did not decrease. It continued to move towards the east, wherever it passed, swept everything. In the weather of -180 degrees, the ground is frozen, icebergs and glaciers are formed, and the storm is swept. Wherever they pass, these icebergs and glaciers are broken and mixed into the storm. Although the water column is significantly reduced, the storm seems to be more powerful. Horror scenes happened one after another in the eastern continent. When the superstorm officially entered the eastern continent, everything became more unstable. The first superstorm soon met the first giant launch pad built within the steel wall of the continental barrier, which is the giant launch pad where Win Midnight is located. The giant launch pad that can be used as a refuge and can resist a magnitude 10 earthquake, covering 2 areas, up to 90 meters, stands tall in the storm at this moment. Ying Ziyue and others are on the 3rd floor, and they can see the superstorm gradually approaching their location through a window, made of the strongest material in the world. There are people counting. One bang, the raging storm hit this giant launch pad. An iceberg that was rolled up hit the window in front of Win Midnight with a bang. Everyone was taken aback. Obviously, no one would have imagined that when the superstorm just swept across this giant launch pad, it hit a heavy blow. Even the air stagnated for a while. The solid glass shook violently. Everyone's eyes were fixed on this glass, and the outside world was full of wind. Bang, another heavy blow broke the silence in the giant launch pad. Everyone recovered and saw that the window in front of them was being hit one after another. The superstorm ravaged the world, and everyone witnessed it coming from the mainland barrier and then swept across the giant launch pad. Everyone can clearly feel that they are in the center of the storm, and the raging storm is constantly hitting this giant launch pad. This scene is really unspectacular. Someone sighed, "I didn't expect that one day I could be in the center of the storm and still exist in peace." If there was this technology in the civilization period, our technology will definitely surpass other countries, and the discipline of natural research will take a big step forward. Yes, I didn't expect such a day. The professors and deans present, regardless of the dangerous situation at the moment, were all talking excitedly. Zhao Guofeng also looked excited, and then he looked at Ying Ziyue beside him, only to see that Ying Ziyue had a calm face, no sadness or joy, and no expressions. The excitement on Zhao Guofeng's face gradually cooled, and he turned to curiosity. "Chief Team Leader, our project has passed the test, aren't you happy?" "Happy," Ying Ziyue said, "but the disaster has just begun." Win Midnight looked solemnly. At this moment, the workers and laborers taking refuge on the 1st floor of the giant launching pad felt the power of the superstorm. All of them were pale. Outside, banging sounds kept hitting the giant launching pad and echoed in the huge space. Everyone clasped their hands together and prayed through the disaster. I don't know how long it took, but the bang 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 gradually stopped. There was news from the 3rd layer that superstorm had already headed to the next destination, and everyone cheered. This giant launch pad, as the guardian of the great country said, can withstand heavy disasters in the superstorm. This giant launch pad stood firm and withstood the test again. Then someone made a call and wanted to tell his family that he was safe. At this time, the busy tone is displayed on the phone. Although they were the closest to the mainland barrier and the first to withstand the test, the ravages of the disaster did not stop and continued, so that part of the communication facilities disappeared in the superstorm. In the entire sky, there is only a superstorm with all kinds of sounds, and everything is swaying in the wind. At 2100 hours on May 27th, the 11th year of the Ice Age, the superstorm went through the steel barriers of the mainland. Giant launch pads, separation walls, and glacier barriers, all super projects, and finally all gathered in the city. Chapter 253. When the storm passed the separation wall and the glacier barrier, it made a more dull and loud sound. After passing through these 2 lines of defense, the water column rolled up by the storm, reduced again. Countless huge currents hit the separation wall and the glacier barrier, and dispersed, forming the Huanggang Sea on the ground. Soon, with -180 degrees, the ground began to freeze, and the water level rose 5 times. Meter in the violent cold wind, the separation wall and the glacier barrier stood tall. This scene was very spectacular and stunning. After a series of sniping attacks, the superstorm power that reached the coastal city fell again. This moment will finally come. Coastal cities and 20 giant launch pads are fighting together. Disaster. The entire street was flooded with storms, and the visibility reached a negative number. I just listened to all kinds of whining sounds echoing in my ears. The green seaweed and newly researched summer flowers scattered on the street were almost destroyed by the storm. All are dead, but it doesn't matter. As long as the seeds are there, one day, green seaweed and summer flowers will spread all over the eastern continent. The scorching blast furnace is still fighting against the weather of -180 degrees. The heat rises, and the cold air collides with each other, warming every corner of the city. At this moment, as the storm is sweeping, the heat of the scorching blast furnace continues to radiate, and it sweeps everywhere. The wind turbine was welling in the violent cold wind, and the project was operated beyond the limit when the storm arrived. This scene was very spectacular in the violent cold wind because when the superstorm swept the west, no project could survive the disaster. The east has not only withstood the test, at the same time, wind turbines also bring electricity to every residential building, every lighthouse, etc. in such extreme weather. Bang bang. Bang. Wherever the superstorm passed, the windows of the residents upstairs crackled, and everyone in the house sat together and witnessed the arrival of the extreme weather. Everyone never thought that one day they would be able to face the arrival of this extreme weather safely and unharmed, and then lift a cup of tea from the table to respect the extreme weather. The southern part of the eastern continent mainly produces cotton and steel equipment. There are many factories in the south. As an important strategic location for materials in the eastern continent, this place is also being tested. After the superstorm landed in the east, they began to rush towards all directions of the eastern continent at varying speeds. The southern factories have long been solid after construction, and the factories scattered on the mainland are undergoing severe tests at this moment, except for the special factory. All factories have stopped construction, and everyone has returned to their homes to survive the disaster with their families. Corresponding important strategic materials in the north are mainly ecological parks and Xihai warehouses. The construction and reinforcement here are the top priority, and no mistakes are allowed. Until the last moment, when the superstorm landed in the east, the person in charge here was still in command. Reinforce, reinforce, reinforce continuously. The plants and animals in the eco park are too fragile to withstand the ravages of the storm. The Xihai warehouse has long boiled, because the animals have the ability to perceive. They foresee the next disaster, all boiled, above the sea. It is extremely magnificent. Whirring in the end, the superstorm reached one place after another. All the engineering buildings are swaying in the wind, and the violent cold wind is constantly flapping, sweeping everything around. There was only a huge sound of wind left in the sky, and no other sound could be heard. At 2200 hours on May 27th 11th year of the Ice Age, the projects that had undergone day and night reinforcement were all fighting the superstorm together, facing the disaster. Danfang did not choose to give up, nor did he choose to hide underground, but still resolutely chose to continue to stand on the surface and continue to confront, guarding the ice-breaking aircraft carrier on the coastline. The new type of aircraft carrier is facing that tsunami caused by the superstorm. As before, even if the huge waves rise up to 3,400 meters, there is no aircraft carrier to choose. Retreat, but brave the wind and waves, continue to confront, and reduce the danger of that tsunami to the eastern continent. The three lines of defense in the eastern continent, including the steel barrier, the separation wall, and the glacier barrier, were swept by the storm, standing high in the cold wind, and accompanied by the extreme weather. The wind and frost left traces one after another. The most spectacular is the sea crossing bridge. As the storm swept across the eastern continent, the sea crossing bridge across the three seas only shook slightly. Then, with the advent of the superstorm, the sea crossing bridge stood firm in the cold wind and still steadily straddled the three seas. Like a long dragon, it continues to advance in the storm, guarding this continent. Zero fine flowers allowing icebergs and ice barriers to hit the cross-sea bridge, making a huge dull sound. The cross-sea bridge is beyond imagination, and when the storm reaches its extreme, the cross-sea bridge only vibrates violently. The sea boils, and waves of high waves are set off. The bridge across the sea is swaying in the wind and parading in the huge waves. This scene was captured by satellites. The astronaut who was the first to see was shocked to say nothing. The power of the superstorm is so great that no bridge can escape the superstorm. But the east did it. Boom boom boom, the familiar voice rang again. In the storm, a huge front appeared. When this superstorm came to the east, when no one or any tool dared to travel, the snow country train appeared under the cold wind accompanied by layers of snow and fog. It is also the only vehicle still running in the east. The huge snow country train carries important supplies, and it is moving forward with blizzards and cold winds. When the superstorm arrives, it continues to move forward and does not stop. Boom boom boom, a huge romantic bang on the snow country train, and the power at this moment is enough to lift any building up. Then the conductor inside the snow country train saw a drastic change in the windows installed on the snow country train. Inside the car, the temperature dropped again. At the same time, the body shook violently. The conductor turned white, and his heart jumped wildly. I don't know that it took too long, but it was actually only 3 minutes. When the wind became weaker and the car body became slightly stable, the conductor dared to open his eyes. Is this carried over? OMG. Great power project. Awesome. It's not just the Eastern construction project that is fighting, but at the same time, in this tyrannical weather, when the wind becomes weaker, teams of mammoths appear in the extreme weather that no creatures dared to appear. A team of mammoths embellish the dark sky to die. Chapter 254. Is it over? Someone asked. No, it's not over yet. As of May 27th, 11th year of the Ice Age, until 2359, the superstorm continued. As time passed, it gradually evacuated from the eastern continent and swept in other directions. At this moment, the entire east is in a state of violent storms, with an average density of only about 5 meters except for the snow country train that continues to travel around the country, and the new type of icebreaker aircraft carrier that continues to fight that tsunami. Other driving tools, airships, blizzard chariots, and giant iceberg ships are staying where they should stay, waiting for the storm to pass. But then, there will be another disaster, which is about to sweep the area near the east. When the people in the east expected the superstorm to pass quickly, the sky over other ocean areas was covered with dark clouds, and thunder and lightning shuttled through them, filling the entire sky. 2, 5, 3 bang bang bang. The Rose Kingdom and the Eagle Kingdom, which have finally recovered their underground communications, have not yet returned from the panic and disaster above the ground. There was a sound of vibration. It sounds like the sound of a galloping horse, but when you listen carefully, it seems to be different. The superstorm swept almost the entire earth. When passing by the surface of the Rose Country and the Eagle Country, the storm shattered all the buildings. The buildings built by the Rose Country and the Eagle Country in 3 years were destroyed by the superstorm. At once then, the tsunami swept across, scouring the surface of the Rose Country and the Eagle Country. As this part of the area slowly returned to calm, the Eagle Country and Rose Country gradually revealed the surface swept by the superstorm. The walls were ruined, fragments were broken, and all buildings were completely destroyed. All the hard work of the Rose Kingdom and the Eagle Kingdom disappeared in this disaster, but it is far from stopping. Hail as big as a basketball fell into the sea at once, and then, like a no-me card dumped, it crackled and countless hail fell from the sky. These hailstones vary in size, but without exception, they are larger than the largest hailstones in civilization. Wrapped in a layer of crystal, it was as big as a basketball, and it was as small as a tennis ball. Bang 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 dropped from the sky, continuously smashed into the sea surface instantly. Boiled. In some areas, the sea level is very low. In the weather of -180 degrees, due to the formation of hail weather, it has slowly begun to freeze. The hail from behind hit the ice, banging. Deep pits were formed. Click. Due to the intensive hail attack, the ice surface soon cracked again and dissolved in the water. The hail from the sky fell into the water and splashed countless sprays, which can reach up to about 10 meters, showing the horror of hail. This is not over yet, as the dark clouds and dense thunder and lightning continue to shuttle, and soon, the hail from the sky becomes larger again, and the hail from the size of a basketball expands again, and falls on the exposed surface of the Rose Country and the Eagle Country. Those broken walls, after being attacked, unyielding collapsed again. Point with the intensity of hail. The Rose Kingdom and Eagle Kingdom, hiding in the dungeons and underground castles, can hear the galloping horses from above. Point the dungeon and the underground castle finally recovered communication, and then they saw that their area was shrouded in dark clouds, and thunder and lightning shuttled through them. Under close shooting, hail can reach the size of a bicycle wheel, which is terrifying. East, how is it now? A senior leader asked. Now we can't protect ourselves. Do you still care about the East? No, there is a leak in Castle 4. Hurry up, send someone to deal with it. Castle 5 has also started. This damn extreme weather. The West went offline again. They were too busy to take care of themselves. They were busy building collapses and leaks caused by the disaster. It cannot be subverted by the impact of sea storm. Point under satellite photography. The white vortex slowly shifted, gradually revealing the face of the East. 20 giant launch pads that are the most eye-catching in the western part of the mainland have all passed the test under the storm. 20 giant launch pads stand tall, majestic, with long cannons pointing straight to the west. The continental barrier that protects the entire 4,000 kilometers of the East also stands high on the east coastline, enclosing the entire East, allowing waves of seawater to hit. Head of the team, there is still 1 hour from the extreme weather super hail to the east. Chief, what's the next arrangement? Tell the people, let them stay at home, and don't go out, before the hail arrives. Continue with the last engineering overhaul. Make sure that everything is foolproof. The sound of winning midnight is strong. Before the arrival of the superstorm, it was late at night, but on the 3rd floor of the giant launch pad, no one was resting. Everyone insisted on standing on the first line of defense, waiting for the disaster to come. Super hail. The directional airship used to research the super hail. The directional rocket has been inspected for the last time, and part of the damage caused by the storm is overhauled. As a result, the people of the East in the entire eastern continent obeyed the announcement and stayed at home strictly. The workers in charge of related aspects once again went out to the nearby places to maintain the directional rockets and airships under the fierce storm. Like the giant launch pad, most of the directional rockets and directional airships are concentrated in the west of the mainland, because this is the only way for superstorms and super hail. All power is reduced to a minimum. A total of 6 batches of directional rockets and directional airships were built. 200 directional rockets, 100 directional airships, a total of 300, but thousands of people were responsible for the maintenance and repair. Everyone is treated as the most noble task. Someone took the lead in arriving at the place where the directional rocket was placed, just the closest to the steel wall of the mainland barrier. The violent cold wind is blowing. Although the visibility is getting higher and higher, the wind and snow blows on the body. There is also hail the size of quail eggs. Everyone has misery. Faced with such a difficult situation, the person in charge could not help but stand up and say, "Comrades, hold on. As long as this batch of projects is successfully overhauled, and there is nothing wrong with it, we can return to the voyage. Think about our country. All disasters have been resisted, so this disaster is also the same. Everyone, do you have any confidence?" Chapter 255. No matter how loud the wind is, it can't stop everyone's roar. I don't know who started. A song to commemorate the birth of the disaster suddenly sounded, drifting further and further with the wind. Let the wind be strong, and the rain will be strong. Dong Fang raises his hands. Everything is ready for disaster. Weapon is our spirit, will indomitable, like steel whirring the whole East. The wind is bigger on May 28th. The 11th year of the Ice Age. Only the last 10 minutes were left before the arrival of the super hail, and the time was 0049. At this moment, the entire Earth was enveloped by thick galaxies, and it was pitch black. At the same time, the East, which only existed on the eastern surface, was pitch black. Because of the damage caused by the superstorm, some lighthouses were destroyed by the superstorm, and some lighthouses were temporarily closed. At the same time, because the storm was too big, the wind turbines in many cities were temporarily shut down or destroyed, and many residential buildings were not available. When it came to power supply, it fell into darkness just when the time reached 0050, with the mainland West 02 as the leader. A ray of light suddenly lit up point. Although this light was faint, it was unusually conspicuous in this pitch black world. Point. There is a saying that a single spark can start a prairie fire, and after this light, countless faint lights are lit up. Point. These lights came from giant launch pads, some lighthouses, ice-breaking aircraft carriers, new aircraft carriers that were competing against each other, and so on. Point. Shooting from a satellite, this scene is the only place where there is light in the entire Earth. Point. It is stunning and spectacular. Head of the team, there are still 10 minutes left in the giant launch pad. Someone said beside Ying Ziyue, is everything ready? Everything is almost ready, just wait for the disaster to come. Everything will be verified again. The other side proudly point. Because of the confidence given by the Great Power Project, we have survived the superstorm once again at the giant launch pad. We are full of confidence. We are extremely confident about the disaster that follows, and will surely be able to survive. Point. When Midnight did not speak. From beginning to end, he stood in the distance like a statue, speaking only when he gave orders. About a minute later, when Midnight answered, the next disaster, please do your best, please. The cold wind was blowing outside, slapped on the windows, all kinds of sounds were mixed, and the giant launch pad became extremely quiet in an instant. For the country, we must go all out. Zhao Guofeng, who had been guarding Ying Ziyue's side like a bodyguard, looked solemn. For the sake of a big country, we must do our best, someone said again. Point. Everyone's eyes became firm immediately. Although they didn't know what kind of disasters one by the Midnight talk about, and how terrifying it was, they all didn't know. But for this country, even if it was sacrifice, they were willing to sacrifice. It's ruining. Point. As time approaches step by step. Point. The disaster is coming as promised, and the super hail is here, covering the huge sea area. Dark clouds were covered, thunder and lightning shuttled, and countless hailstones smashed down densely. Point. In the Kawasaki country near the east, the covered ground gradually appeared due to the declining smell of seawater. As the super hail came, the whole ground was continuously smashed into deep pits one after another. Catcher, the stone stele with the words Kawasaki country was submerged under super hail. Only one tip of the stone was exposed. Point. Then more hail fell from the sky, and soon the land of Kawasaki country disappeared again. Point. Hail fell, and everything was frozen with the weather of -180 degrees. Soon, Kawasaki was covered by ice and sank again. Point. At 1 AM on May 28, 11th year of the Ice Age, extreme weather and super hail arrived in the east. Point. As a superstorm gradually shifted, the power of the huge wave and tsunami decreased, and the pressure on the ice-breaking aircraft carrier and the new type of aircraft carrier was suddenly reduced. But within half an hour, the surging water hit the aircraft carrier again. Point. Bang bang bang. The slap of the huge waves became fierce again. Point. The captain received a new notice here. He nodded repeatedly, and his back was solemn, turned to these young soldiers, and said, everyone, the superstorm has arrived. Unfortunately we have passed the first disaster. Next, we have to continue. The super hail is about to arrive, so, I hope you can do your best. Report. For the country, it is incumbent. Bang bang bang. It took only a minute for the voice to fall, and the sound of percussions from the icebreaker aircraft carrier. The hail that originally fell from the sky began to grow larger. From the size of an egg, it slowly grew larger above the head. Dark clouds rolled. Thunder and lightning shuttled. Point. Above the sea, it all boiled. Point. The islands bordering the west of the mainland just calmed down, and the residents in the residential buildings did not breathe a sigh of relief. Then, the first wave of egg-sized hail hit, crackling, constantly smashed to the ground, and landed on various buildings. It was the same residential building, and the same family. The Melona just breathed a sigh of relief, and it didn't take long for a crackling sound to come. Point. Dense hail and thunderbolts smashed down. Point. The host's eyes widened and looked at all this incredible. Point. Kangdang. Soon, a hail of basketball fell and hit the window. Point. God, what is this? The inhabitants of the artificial island that was the first to welcome the super hail exclaimed. Point. I saw one by one, like basketballs, and hail the size of wheels, smashing to the ground cracklingly. The volume is very huge, beyond everyone's imagination. Click. The windows of a residential building were directly smashed through, and huge hailstones rolled into the room. The people inside looked at all of this in shock. The hail that needed to be picked up was full of chills, and touched with his hands, it was cold from head to sole. The same is true for the residents on the islands. When their vision became clear, they saw the hail from the sky in this extreme weather, and everyone gasped for a breath. Intensive hail began to hit the eastern seas, artificial islands, and other areas in the back. More intensive hail is coming. Such super hail, one by one falling from the sky, will cause intensive damage, such as Snow Country Train, Cross Sea Bridge, Xihai Warehouse and other projects and tools areas, etc. The damage will be even greater. At 1:05, there was a calm voice from the giant launch pad. Directional airship, turn on the directional rocket. Chapter 256. Directional airship, turn on the directional rocket. With the order of Ying Ziyue, almost everyone received the order at the same time. Most of the directional airships with the same branch in the west of the mainland, all directional rockets are turned on. Follow the plan. When the time reached 1:10, Ying Ziyue said, directional airship, directional rockets start. When the order arrives, everyone executes it quickly. Press the button. The first wave of airships, the first wave of directional rockets, start. Boom. The first wave of airships, the first wave of directional rockets, rose, and then flew toward the west. The super hail was about 80 miles away from the eastern continent, and collided with the first wave of airships and the first wave of rockets. Rising airships, rockets, against the violent cold wind, flying against the wind, one after another, flying through the air. Some residents of coastal cities, and the people in the east guarding the third floor of the giant launch pad, can see that in this violent cold wind, except for the snow country trains that continue to circle the country, there is no vehicle for extreme weather. Here, the directional airship and the directional rocket appear in a stunning posture. In mid-air, the violent cold wind will destroy all things in the world. The temperature will freeze everything at -180 degrees, and the falling hail, intensively coming, almost smashing through the ground, and so on. In a three-tiered harsh and cruel environment, the directional airship has overcome numerous difficulties and appeared. This scene is truly spectacular and stunning. From the civilization period to today, no vehicle has ever been able to travel in this environment, except for the snow country train that has been set a long time ago. Unlike the snow country train, the disaster encountered by the directional airship and the rocket is faced. Various situations are far more complicated than the snow country train. If one is not calculated, or the calculation is wrong, even a small detail, it may cause the directional rocket, directional airship to make mistakes, and fall from mid-air, before reaching the set point. Then the mission will be judged as a failure. The professors and deans on the third floor of the giant launch pad looked at the first wave of airships and rockets traveling in the triple extreme weather, and they looked excited. Then, they witnessed the first wave of airships. The rocket successfully reached the set location, and everyone was boiling. Successful. The first wave of directional airships, directional rockets, successfully reached the set location, and the red fog was looming from the dark clouds. This is a signal. When it reaches the set point, the directional airship and the directional rocket explodes. It will send out such a signal. In the face of the next confrontation, everyone is more confident. The directional rocket, the directional airship, start again, and the first wave of the directional airship is away. After the directional rocket is successful, the second wave and the third wave will be launched again. Bang bang bang. The next scene should be permanently recorded in the history of the Eastern Ice Age. Just like a meteor, the directional rocket and the directional airship traverse the triple extreme disaster situation and successfully reach the set location again. The surface of the red rocket was stained with a layer of crystal frost, swaying in the cold wind, and constantly being disturbed by the falling hail, but it still reached the set point without hesitation and successfully blocked the super hail from reaching the eastern continent in a more violent situation. Boom. There is a spectacular scene in the sky. This is because the signal released by the directional airship and the rocket exploded, dyeing the sky red and embellishing it, just like the East successfully resisted the disaster signal of the Ice Age. Unprecedented. Point. The hail of the size of a wheel from the sky began to change, slowly becoming the size of a basketball, and hitting the sea, the steel walls of the mainland, artificial islands, ice-breaking aircraft carriers, new aircraft carriers and other buildings and tools. The ice-breaking aircraft carriers and new type aircraft carriers that are fighting more than that tsunami waves can feel the attack from above. The soldier and sailor inside saw hail the size of a basketball slamming down, and his eyes widened in shock. Oh my god, this is the first time I have seen such a big hail. Stop talking about you. Me too. If this hail hits a person, it is unimaginable. Don't talk nonsense. Don't be distracted. Don't forget your mission, the team leader scolded. And everyone quickly took care of it. The squad leader also looked at the window at this time and saw that the sky was densely covered with dark clouds. Thunder and lightning shuttled, and then a dense hailstorm smashed down, and the sound continued to come. Bang bang. The team leader's eyes were full of worry. Then he became firm again and continued to command point, although the prevention of hail has played a certain role. The next step is to face a wave of super hail. The artificial islands in the west of the mainland can be said to have experienced these disasters first. When everyone thought that the superstorm had passed, the super hail smashed down again. At this moment, the repeatedly reinforced construction works played a defensive role. Everyone is under the intensive hail attack, coexisting with this extreme weather. The seawater around the artificial islands boils like hot water from a deep fried pot, and the artificial islands are like a flat boat, allowing the seawater and hail to wash away, trying their best to resist the extreme weather. When the extreme cold storm came, the cross-sea bridge swayed in the cold wind, but it still stood tall, forming a spectacular scene. At this moment, when the extreme cold storm passed, the arrival of super hail continuously hit the cross-sea bridge, which was even more spectacular. A scene also appeared. The long and majestic sea crossing bridge is allowed to intensively fall and destroy by super hail. It is like a long dragon, winding in the east, spanning the three seas. The violent cold wind and intensive hailstones constantly hit the cross-sea bridge. The whole bridge made a dull, Lizio voice. Soon, the cross-sea bridge was covered with a layer of crystal, which was caused by the hail falling down, and it instantly froze into ice in sub-zero weather. Bang bang bang. Coming to the mainland barrier, the separation wall, and the iceberg barrier. These three barriers have just experienced a superstorm, and at this moment, they have experienced the invasion of super hail again. At this moment, these super projects once again reflect their sturdiness. Let hail the size of a basketball fall. Bang 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 bang. The mainland barrier, the separation wall, and the iceberg barrier will stand tall in the event of a triple disaster. If Westerners are still online at this moment, they will surely once again marvel at how great, magnificent, and solid the Eastern project is. As time passed by, the super hail eventually landed on the coast of the mainland and moved to the inland cities. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257. The southern factories, ecological parks, Xihai warehouses, etc. all suffered the strongest hail attack. When this scene really happened, everyone was shocked, surprised, and shocked. Because no matter how big the hail in the civilization period is, it is only a little bigger than an egg, and it has already caused intense damage. When the hail of the size of a basketball fell from the sky, everyone was shocked. At this time, everyone knows why all the buildings are continuously reinforced. When hail fell from the sky, the thunderbolts smashed on the ground, leaving deep pits one after another. When you saw the summer flowers and seaweeds that had grown hard to grow, they were all buried by the hail, and various buildings came banging. With the banging sound, everyone could not help but pale and frightened, and at the same time extremely grateful. The super hail invaded the eastern continent in a devastating manner. Prior to this, directional airships and directional rockets successfully intercepted super hail in the west of the mainland and reduced their power. At this moment, the hail volume facing the eastern continent will become smaller. If it is the size of a wheel, it will be unthinkable. Any building will be destroyed. In this disaster the sky and the earth have changed color, and the temperature of -257 degrees, which is a mixture of storm and hail, is cruel to the extreme point. During the early morning hours of this devastating disaster, no one fell asleep. The continental barrier, the separation wall, and the glacier barrier are all fighting hard. The cross-sea bridge sways in the wind, the wind turbine rotates in the cold wind, and it suffers from hail. The scorching blast furnace emits hot air, and when it is driven to the extreme, the hot air that it emits collides with the cold air, and the volume of the hail also decreases, reducing its power. After the upgraded hot blast furnace, the heat emitted by it becomes even warmer. When the super hail reaches the inland city, its volume is reduced again. The snow country train traveled around the country, with storms and hail, forming a spectacular scene. The reinforced Xihai warehouse is the place that attracts the most attention, because it gathers the most fish in the world, is also the place with the highest oxygen content, and at the same time, it is also the most dangerous place. Because this is an ocean area. If there is a tsunami, or there is a disaster related to the ocean, it will also be affected here. At this moment, the number of hot blast furnaces built around here has increased to 20, and the 20 hot blast furnaces are fighting together. What kind of scene it is like, Shenzhen, the person in charge, can be regarded as seeing today. The newly transferred person in charge, Shenzhen, was in the bunker near the Xihai warehouse. Through the window, he saw the hail rustling down outside, constantly smashing to the ground, and the sea was mixed with storms, and the weather was extremely bad. Just 10 minutes ago, Shenzhen was still in command. As the hail became bigger and bigger, the workers who were rushing for repairs abruptly stunned, and all personnel had to evacuate. From Shenzhen's eyes, where the lighthouse is shining, the ocean is boiling, and countless fishes are struggling and jumping after being attacked. This hail is really too big, too terrifying. There is a workers' road next to it. Yes, I don't know how much to lose this time. It's so disaster and difficult. Those creatures in the poor ocean will suffer a devastating blow. Gong, look, it's almost time. Let's get started. Shenzhen stared deeply out the window again, and then ordered, "Alright, I got it. Sizzling blast furnace, turn it on." With an order, the workers under his hand received the order. In Shenzhen's eyes and the eyes of other workers, the other 10 newly built hot blast furnaces were activated. A total of 20 hot blast furnaces. At the same moment, at the same time, 10 minutes later, when the warm breath collided with the cold air, the environment around the Xihai warehouse changed. The warm breath collided with the cold air. After the storm swept through, various shapes appeared in the air. Everyone looked at this scene in shock, and couldn't say the shock. As the temperature of the scorching blast furnace warmed up again, the surrounding air began to be mixed with a trace of warmth, drifting to the surroundings with the storm, covering the Xihai warehouse. At the same time, other buildings are also working hard at the same time. Everything is in confrontation, constant confrontation, as time goes by. When the strongest super hail intensively descends on the Xihai warehouse, the 20 hot blast furnaces that play an important role also heat up to the extreme. At this moment, this scene should be permanently included in the Ice Age scene. After the upgrade, the hot air from a blast furnace up to 100 meters high erupted and collided with the cold air. The surrounding environment changed, visible to the naked eye. Dongfang changed the nature with its own power. At the same time, the hail of the size of basketball began to shrink and hit the sea again. At that time, hail was only half the size of a basketball, which greatly reduced the pressure on the Xihai warehouse. Gong, it's starting to work. Someone can't help being excited when they observe this scene. Gong took a deep breath and said, "Go on, don't let any relaxation before the super hail is over, or the hot blast furnaces must maintain the highest temperature. The Xihai warehouse is mainly protected by it." Yes. Gong, under minus weather, storms, and hail, the scorching blast furnace came into play again, and at the same time, other cities did the same. Head of the team, the 20 hot blast furnaces in the Xihai warehouse have been activated. Someone reported on the 3rd floor of the giant launch pad. At 4 AM, all the professors and deans were still on the 3rd floor, continuing to face the disaster with Ying Ziyue as the leader. Everyone looked out the window, from the tyrannical cold wind almost destroying the giant launch pad, to the arrival of super hail, until the entire disaster gradually subsided, and everyone continued to stay in place. 10 hot blast furnaces near the ecological park have been activated. The 4 hot blast furnaces on artificial islands 3 and 4 have been activated. It is good. When the knight wrote, "Chairman, you should take a break. It's not a way to go on like this." After the report, someone went on to persuade, "Are all the hot blast furnaces running?" Asked Ying Ziyue. "Except for the severe damage, all the scorching blast furnaces are operating and confronting each other." "That's good." Ying Ziyue rubbed his eyebrows. After hearing the news, his spirit relaxed slightly. "Everyone, according to the weather simulation, the superstorm and the super hail can leave the east in 3 hours. So, please hold on, head of the team. For the country, and for the east, we will definitely hold on." Almost coincident voices sounded. Ying Ziyue looked at the scene in front of him, and he was very pleased. Then, his face solemnly said, "Then next, I will announce an important plan." Chapter 258. On June 1st, the 11th year of the Ice Age, 5 days have passed since the devastating disaster. Bang 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 on the vast ground, a piece of crystal clear cover, endless snow white. As the lens was pulled in, a gap in the ground began to appear. Bang bang bang. After 10 minutes passed, this ground finally cracked. A leopard with thick fur and yellow-black color appeared, then lifted the ground and jumped out from the ground. Leopards are tall, twice the size of leopards in civilization, and they have more ferocious eyes, which evolved in a cruel environment. With natural selection and survival of the fittest, all living things are forced to grow and survive desperately in this extreme environment. Behind this tall leopard, several cubs came out again. They shook the snowflakes and crystal frost on their bodies, and chased each other again in a piece of ice and snow. It's just that they slipped to the ground before they could run a few steps, slid, and then slid far away. The ground is extremely smooth. The wind blew by, bringing countless cold air, and mixed with snow foam drifting farther and farther. The sky is still dim. After 11 years of heavy snow finally stopped. The blizzard that was originally rustling slowly turned into a small snow falling from the sky. After experiencing a devastating disaster, everything began to gradually return to calm. The sound of birds seemed to be heard from the sky and disappeared in no time. If someone is there, you will definitely think that it is a miracle that living species can appear in the wild in this extreme weather. How could there be birds appearing in the sky? At this moment, the entire earth is once again in a state of ice. This is due to the triple extreme weather. The super hail was mixed with the superstorm. Wherever it passed, a piece of hail fell intensively and was frozen by the weather of 180 degrees. Soon, many areas were gradually stained with a layer of frost. As the time passed, the ocean was gradually frozen, and once again returned to the triple extreme disaster 6 years ago. The entire earth was in a state of ice. At the same time, as the storm swept, and was frozen by the weather of -180 degrees, the seawater remained in the form of a water column. This scene was bizarre. The desert country, where the storm first started, is in this state at this moment. Superstorms swept the sea, and the earth was frozen continuously in the extreme weather. After a piece of ice is present here, the rising seawater can reach up to 700 meters, forming a spectacular scene. The lowest is 100 meters. After a devastating disaster, a kingdom of ice and snow is formed here. But part of the ocean is still turbulent, and huge waves of tsunami continue to rise, making waves. The northern and southern glaciers, as the 2 largest glaciers with the most complete and largest ice area on the planet, began to collapse after the arrival of super hail. However, the power of hail has been greatly reduced when it hits the northern and southern glaciers, and the hail is from the largest wheel size. It is reduced to half the volume of the basketball, so it does not pose much threat to the north and south glaciers. On the contrary, in the extreme weather of more than 200 degrees below zero, hail fell on the glacier iceberg and quickly merged. As time goes by, the area of the north and south glaciers gradually increases again. All of this is changing invisibly, and the only remaining satellites on the earth have long focused their attention on the remaining countries at this moment. Western satellites finally connected to the underground countries, the Eagle Country and the Rose Country. Previously, when the superstorm swept across the surface of the Eagle Country and the Rose Country, the Eagle Country and the Rose Country gradually lost contact point with the subsequent arrival of the superhail. The Eagle Nation and the Rose Nation completely lost contact point after the intermittent connection. The Eagle Nation and the Rose Nation were in a state of dire straits, and the signal was completely restored when all the disasters passed on June 1. Various disaster situations were reported down. The surface was completely destroyed, which seemed to be Minister Roddy's expectation. At this moment, Roddy's mood is very complicated. They finally migrated from the underground to the surface, racing against time in construction projects, in order to survive on the surface, just like the East, to welcome the wind, frost, rain, and snow, and enjoy the free air. But the 3 years of hard work was completely wiped out in a devastating disaster. Look from the pictures uploaded by the satellite point. Although that tsunami caused by the superstorm has gradually faded and exposed the ground, the last part of the building was buried underneath and completely frozen due to the arrival of the superhail. 0 Find flowers from the satellite. All the building projects have been completely destroyed. The 80-meter high city wall that was once towering high is about to be completed. Under the sweep of superstorms and superhail, only 5 meters are left. Imitating the scorching hot blast furnace made in the East, at this moment, because of being swept by a superstorm, all collapsed, leaving only less than 10 meters. All the manpower and materials expended were destroyed overnight. Roddy's mood at the moment really couldn't say what he felt. However, now he has more things to deal with. Now, the first thing he has to face is the questioning from the senior leaders. Roddy, this is your good idea. Now all your hard work is ruined in this disaster. Roddy, you need to give the people an explanation. Roddy, what are you going to do with this? Roddy, the senior leader, was ashamed, and Roddy, who questioned him, had a headache, but he couldn't get angry. I will give you an explanation of this matter, but now obviously we have more important things to do, Roddy said with a grimace. Now 2 of the 8 underground bunkers have lost contact. One has killed more than half of the people, and the other bunkers have also suffered losses. Now, we should try our best to discuss post-disaster measures, rather than blaming someone. Don't you think you are not responsible? Roddy, everyone could not refute, because the current situation is to discuss countermeasures as soon as possible to minimize the loss. Everything is in a hurry. Various measures have been continuously issued, and the Eagle Nation's measures are to save as much as possible. The same is true for the Rose Country, and their dungeons have suffered considerable losses. All the buildings on the surface were destroyed once, and all the hard work disappeared in this disaster. When everyone is busy, someone suddenly thinks of the East at this moment. The East has been standing on the surface since the beginning of the Ice Age, and has continued to the present. Death Chapter 259. The East has been standing on the surface since the beginning of the Ice Age, and has continued to the present point. When the superstorm came and swept across the entire western surface, all buildings were destroyed in this disaster. So can the East also carry it? East, how is it now? Almost at the same time, the ministers of the Eagle Country and the Rose Country asked. Rumblev sky is still dim, the wind is blowing, mixed with snow foam floating into the distance. The weather is still -80 degrees, freezing everything. In the endless white snow, with the appearance of a blizzard chariot, it broke the peace of this world. For 5 full days, as the disaster passed, the West was still in the dungeon, and the East was officially opened for traffic. The location at the moment is Yanjing. After the 257 order was issued, everyone walked out of the house like birds in cages. Then they saw everything that happened on the street. Scene after scene. The ground was smashed into deep pits after hail. All the newly planted summer flowers died in this disaster, as well as the algae that can provide oxygen to people. They almost died in this disaster. The oxygen concentration in the air is also decreased in an instant. Other places, such as residential buildings, have also been smashed into deep pits one after another. This is all due to the consequences of superhail. The people who appeared on the street, without exception, took a sigh of relief because they can't describe it, and they can't imagine that one day, just hail will damage the ground and cause intense damage. Thanks to the motherland, I now finally know why we continue to build and strengthen the project. Yeah, I understand it now. It's horrible. So horrible. Fortunately, I was not outside, otherwise I must be the first to be killed by hail. Thank the country. I now also know why the country allows us to keep strengthening and strengthening. The residents of Ying City couldn't help but feel fortunate at the same time. Other cities are also very fortunate. When they walked out of their homes 5 days later and saw everything destroyed on the streets with their own eyes, only then did they realize the country's good intentions. All the previous complaints disappeared. Since then, the cohesion of the people from the east has become stronger. The specific disaster situation is in the statistics. Ying Ziyue, who has already returned to the Underground Research Institute, gathered with Zhao Guofeng and others to have a meeting point for 5 days. In order to avoid more accidents and losses, Dongfang was completely closed, and no one was allowed to travel, except in some special circumstances after 5 days. Everything began to gradually recover. Ying Ziyue and the others returned to the Underground Research Institute. This is the place where the meeting can be held, and then orders are issued, and the disaster situation in various places starts to report non-stop. While waiting for the disaster report, when Midnight began to recall everything he had seen in the Blizzard Chariot. Among all the vehicles, when Midnight chose the Blizzard Chariot, because only in this way can he see the overall situation of the East more clearly at this moment. After passing the mainland barrier, Ying Ziyue saw the mainland barrier still towering above the ground, letting wind and frost attack it. This 4,000-kilometer long building guarded the continent extremely sturdily. Then it passed the separation wall, the glacier barrier. When passing through these two places, they encountered difficulties in traveling during Midnight, because Ying Ziyue did not travel through the underground glacier tunnel, but chose to travel on the surface. At this moment, on the eastern surface, it has reached an unprecedented level of difficulty. The sweeping of the superstorm caused the displacement of many icebergs and glacier barriers. At the same time, the arrival of superhail continuously smashed the ground and was frozen by the weather of -180 degrees. As a result, the ground was blocked by many obstacles, one after another. In the Big Pit, Blizzard Chariot encountered unprecedented difficulties. According to the planned route, travel from the surface and reach the destination in half a day. As a result, it took more than a day to reach the destination. The surface is now at an unprecedented level of difficulty. The iceberg barrier built by iceberg glaciers. When passing by, you can see the traces of hail, pits, enough to show the horror of hail. But in this case, the iceberg barrier is still towering, 100 meters high. The height rises above the sky zero. All buildings are struggling to fight the disaster. Animals are no exception. I haven't paid much attention to these life species. When a group of snow leopards appeared on the Blizzard Chariot, everyone was shocked. Take a closer look. The snow leopards are besieging a tall animal. This tall animal is just a mammoth evolved from an elephant. At this moment, no matter its size, the degree of its fur, or its ivory, it is already close to the ancestral mammoth. Weak roars resounded through this world. The extremely hungry snow leopards are desperately besieging this mammoth, and a fierce fight is going on. Even when the Blizzard Chariot passed here, the snow leopards did not give up the siege. For them, the food in front of them was obviously more important. While winning, the Midnight is still thinking about it. Half a day has passed. Report to the team leader. This is a disaster situation that has emerged in various places. Winning the Midnight to look carefully. The whole room only made the sound of turning over the paper for a long time. Ying Ziyue rubbed his forehead, a little silent. Everyone looked at the expression of Midnight and cautiously guessed what he was thinking. Is the team leader dissatisfied with this answer sheet? We must know that all the projects built on the surface of the West have been completely destroyed by the disaster, and all efforts have disappeared in this disaster, while the East is still standing on the surface at this moment. I think you don't need to say more about it. According to the disaster situation in various places, we will start renovation and infrastructure construction. Finally, Ying Ziyue spoke. Then, start the next step. Next plan. You are talking about the lightning reserve plan. Someone lost his voice. I haven't recovered from the disaster yet. And then a more vigorous plan was born from the third floor of the giant launch pad. Time goes back to 5 days ago. Many professors and deans are concentrated on the third floor of the giant launch pad to welcome the disaster. While they were waiting for the disaster to pass, the guardian of the great country headed in front of them suddenly spoke. Chapter 260. Next I will announce an important thing. Everyone immediately looked to win the midnight point. The atmosphere instantly became serious. Everyone noticed that the expression on Win Midnight's face seemed to be different from usual. Faintly, someone seemed to have guessed something. Because only when some kind of super project is about to emerge, this expression will appear. Sure enough, as everyone expected, an earth-shattering plan was born. Out of extremely bad weather, the Raiden Reserve plan is impossible to succeed at all. A professor directly judged. First of all, there is no such big container to store lightning. The power released by lightning is relatively large, but the duration is relatively short. The energy released by one discharge cannot be considered too much. Moreover, if you want to catch the lightning, you need to find a container that can store the electrical energy. Even if you install the lightning, the storage is more dangerous. There is no technology that can build 02 containers for storing lightning. This is simply impossible. There is too much knowledge involved. The energy released by lightning is different every time, from several kilowatts to hundreds of thousands of kilowatt hours. Generally speaking, the voltage of an ordinary lightning is about 1 million volts, and the current is 20,000 A, with a duration of 0.1 second. If used, it can be used by an ordinary family for more than 2 months. But the release of lightning, the current generated, the scorching high temperature, the violent shockwave, the drastically changing electrostatic field and the strong electromagnetic radiation, these all involve a lot of physical knowledge, so this can only be imagined. According to the current science and technology, even if it takes 10 or 50 more years, it will not be possible to succeed in research. Everyone lost their voices and talked, and their faces were extremely red. Trouble. Then, Ying Ziyue looked at Ziyue, the person in charge of the Raiden project. Ziyue caught the look in Win Midnight's eyes, and it was instantly clear. Then he resisted his excitement, and took out the paper documents that had been kept in the safe in the top secret room. Now, it is finally time to implement it. On this document, there is a thunder and lightning reserve plan. When Ziyue secretly received the order, he hadn't recovered for a long time. Ziyue was shocked when he first saw these big characters, and he lost his voice. This is impossible. Anyone who knows a little bit of physics knows that this is impossible. Thunder and lightning can't be used as a reserve of electrical energy. The energy released by thunder and lightning can be strong or weak, up to hundreds of millions. On this earth, there is no container to store lightning and so on. This plan is simply impossible to realize. But Ziyue still did, including himself, and the winner of the plan, that only a few people knew about the most impossible super project in history. When the people in charge below received the order, they didn't know what they were mainly responsible for. Now, it's finally time for the announcement. The Raiden Reserve plan was announced from the giant launch pad with the largest area. Then, the Underground Research Institute came up with the plan. Everything is not just imagined in a vacuum, but is really going to be realized. When everyone got the lightning reserve plan, they saw that it was full of content. The overall content is the same as the previous super project. Ideas are proposed, perfected, detailed research, and implementation, simulation, investment, installation, etc. All processes are the same as the previous super project. And on top of these processes, the time is also stipulated. From proposing ideas to full implementation success, these problems must be solved within 3 years. This is simply impossible to achieve. Leader-in-Chief, this is an impossible project. I'm afraid that there will be nothing to study in 3 years. Someone lost his voice. Yes, there were people who used thunder and lightning reserve as a course in civilization, but they all failed. Head of the team, this is really 3 years is too short. If 30 years is about the same. Chief, me look at it. There was content at the back of the Raiden reserve plan. Someone uncovered it and suddenly said loudly point then, or thunder and lightning. Reserve facility that appeared in a gossip situation appeared in front of everyone. Point a huge lightning rod is distributed in the middle and dozens of lightning rods are also distributed around it. And then hiss, everyone couldn't help taking a breath. They didn't expect that the draft of the thunder and lightning reserve plan would have been prepared long ago. Thunder and lightning reserve plan included. This is really shocking, my wife. The mood of everyone is extremely complicated at this moment. This is a super project that is impossible to achieve. It is impossible to achieve. Then everyone continued to read and saw 2 words written at the end. To be continued. Point, what does it mean to be continued? Including Ziyue. None of them knew the meaning of these 2 words. These 2 words will only appear when there is a next episode in the TV series, or when the next step is going. Could it be that there are other plans to be implemented after the thunder and lightning reserve plan? But it shouldn't appear on the plan at this moment. Point, everyone is looking to win the midnight point, because this impossible super project was born by Win Midnight. Then only he really knew what these 2 words meant. Point, Ying Ziyue smiled and looked at the professors and deans who were almost half 100 years old. He couldn't help but surging in his heart, saying, yes, there will be more behind. The projects built during the Ice Age and the Civilization period have their effects, and the Lightning Reserve project is the same. I believe that the naturalists and meteorologists present here have already simulated the disasters that the Earth will encounter after driving into the dense galaxy, and what we have to do is to build one super project after another. Before the disaster strikes, before the disaster came, many people in the West were asking God to bless them, but we in the East are different. We in the East have overcome disaster after disaster by relying on our own hands, our own labor, and our own wisdom. So the next 3 years will be another hard fight. For the next content, what is the use of the Lightning Reserve Plan? In the next, I will reply to everyone one by one. From today, the comprehensive maintenance of the infrastructure in the Lightning Reserve Plan will be carried out at the same time. Chapter 261. On June 1st, the 11th year of the Ice Age, at the same time that the National Disaster Report came up, the Underground Research Institute's super project plan that surpassed the previous one was officially born at 1400 hours. The Raiden Reserve Plan was officially spread throughout the Underground Research Institute on June 2nd. All the researchers, scholars and professors who did not participate in the announcement of this plan in the first time were all shocked. Everyone thinks this is an impossible super project point, because the Lightning Reserve needs to involve too many aspects. According to the current technology of the East, it is far from being achieved. This is simply impossible. On June 7th, the 11th year of the Ice Age, all the people in the East were once again engaged in infrastructure renovation. Since the beginning of June 2nd, all people have once again engaged in infrastructure renovation. Western buildings were destroyed in the disaster, hidden in the ground, surviving. And the buildings in the East still stand on the ground at this moment. Viewed from the satellite, the first thing that played a role was that the giant launch pad, directional rockets, and directional airships reduced the power of the disaster. Then, the continental barrier, the steel wall, the separation wall, and the glacier separation played a role, again reducing the disaster power. The most eye-catching is the hot blast furnace, which plays an extraordinary role when the super hail arrives. But at the same time, these super projects are also facing the destruction of devastating disasters. All projects need to be built and repaired in order to continue to play their role. At this moment, after the disaster, Dongfang's projects are all on the refurbishment schedule. Just like the previous disasters, after the disaster, all the workers and labor forces were dispatched to the repair site. Everyone seemed to be familiar with the road and obeyed the plan. Each city is responsible for different areas and different locations. If things go on like this, it seems like a step. When the renovation plan is arranged, the workers who were in charge of the steel wall of the mainland barrier still go to the steel wall of the mainland, and the workers who were in charge of building the glacial wall continue to go to the glacial wall. Because of the underground glacier tunnel, it saves a lot of time for everyone's traffic, avoids road conditions and possible disasters, and provides great convenience. Therefore, all vehicles run in underground tunnels, and cars come every day. past point. However, due to superstorms and superhail, some underground glacier tunnels collapsed, and traffic conditions are in difficulty, so traffic is prohibited. Many engineering teams heading to a certain area, such as the iceberg separation wall, the mainland barrier, etc., had to pass above the surface point. When they passed through the ground, everyone took a breath point. Even if the disaster has passed, the trauma left by the disaster has made this eastern continent extremely difficult point at first glance. There are pits and pits everywhere. This is caused by the superhail hitting the ground, or the ground is so smooth that even the blizzard chariot will slip on it point. Or, icebergs and ice barriers and glaciers all over the continent, towering high, blocking everyone's path point. This is because the superstorm swept through and caused countless currents to pass through the eastern continent, causing catastrophic damage point. It took 2 days for the first team to reach the eastern continent barrier. Dang, who took the lead, did not expect that one day they would experience the underground glacier tunnel before it was formed. At this moment, he was really fortunate for the construction of the underground glacier tunnel. When the damaged area of the underground glacier tunnel was renovated and repaired, traffic will resume again, and everyone can pass through the underground glacier tunnel point. Bang bang bang, the crisp sound knocked on the steel barrier of the mainland, and countless workers, like little ants, proceeded in an orderly manner. The iceberg and ice barrier rolled up by the superstorm left a deep mark on the mainland barrier. After that, the superhail continued to strike, and at this moment the surface of the mainland eastern barrier was scarred. The undefeated continental barrier has witnessed too many disasters. Li Dang stroked the traces of these disasters, feeling a cold temperature soaking through the limbs, and a sense of tragic and heroic rushing toward him. Li Dang couldn't help taking a deep breath. Suddenly remembering something, said, "Have you heard? There is a new order issued on it." "What new order?" The worker next to him tapped and cast a curious look. Li Dang looked around and saw everyone's curious interactions, and a sense of pride in his heart spontaneously said, "Do you know the Thunder and Lightning Reserve Program, Raiden Reserve Plan?" Since winning Midnight announced this plan at the Underground Research Institute, I didn't intend to hide it, because this plan needs talents from all walks of life across the country, so it's impossible to hide it, so it's better to announce it, and let the public know. What kind of plan will be carried out? A plan that everyone thinks is impossible, the Thunder and Lightning Reserve Plan. "I know that this is simply impossible," said the young man next to him who had just graduated from college. "How can it be impossible?" The worker next to him asked, because he had too little exposure to knowledge and did not understand these things. The young man patiently explained, "The lightning current is too fast and the power is too great. There is no container to store criminals. Furthermore, when all the lightning falls, it will be a devastating blow." The young man didn't say anything, because just thinking about the thunder and lightning in the sky or matter was turned into fly ash. It is even more impossible for him to exist as a human being, and he really didn't dare to imagine it. This is really terrifying, but our country can develop weapons to deal with superhail and superstorms, so naturally it can also develop containers for thunder and lightning reserves, the worker said proudly. The youth cast a blank look at the other party and continued, "That is where you don't know the horror of lightning. When the lightning current is the highest, it can destroy our hot blast furnaces, wind turbines, and even the mainland barrier may be destroyed." Everyone saw that the youth were really not joking. Thinking about it carefully, the thunder and lightning disaster they encountered was really terrifying. When thunder and lightning fall from the sky, only a weak current may kill people, not to mention those powerful thunder and lightning. Although everyone has not witnessed the intensive thunder and lightning, it can also be imagined that after the intensive thunder and lightning strikes in extreme weather, the eastern continent will suffer a devastating blow. This is horrible. Chapter 262. On June 10th, the 11th year of the Ice Age, the nation was caught up in a boom in infrastructure renovation. At the same time, some people noticed that lynching started to move again. Then, a great super project was thoroughly known throughout the country, Raiden Reserve Plan. First, the birth of this plan was announced from the 3rd floor of the giant launch pad and all the underground research institutes. were informed on June 2nd, and then by the press release, a major plan spread throughout the country. When the people in the East were watching the news, this plan was marked in red and appeared on the TV station that everyone has been paying attention to. The Thunder and Lightning Reserve Project is in full swing. The vigorous topic immediately spread in the East, and it was more enthusiastic than all the topics in the past. Because most people in the East who have a little common sense believe that this is an impossible super project. Thunder and lightning storage. This is simply impossible. It takes a long time to complete this plan. If there is enough time, I think it can be achieved. Oh my god, what a great project. If I can see the completion of this project in my lifetime, then I will die without regret. Really proud of our country. Raiden Reserve? What is the country prepared to do? Oh my god, this plan is too advanced. But you seem to have forgotten a question. What do you do with thunder and lightning? Yeah, why do you store lightning? As soon as this plan came into existence, it immediately drew crazy discussions. More than 1 billion people across the country, except for children who didn't know the world, were all talking crazy. As the camera turned around, several culturally rich old men in their 70s or 80s were sitting in the community and placed chess in front of them, but only 7 or 8 moves were made in chess, and everyone started discussing with red ears. It is the lightning reserve plan that the elders are discussing. One of the gray-haired elders said, the thunder and lightning reserve program involves too much knowledge in all aspects. If it is another 30 years, it may be fruitful. 30 years, old OU, didn't you see what the news said? The above stipulates that the lightning reserve plan will only be completed in 3 years. 3 years. This is impossible. Nothing is impossible. I heard the kid in my family say, the sketch has come out. What sketch? The old man knew he had slipped, and he didn't want to say more, but the other old men couldn't help being curious, and had to let him make it clear. I tell you, you must not tell others. After all, this is confidential. Speak quickly. Yes, Leoli, speak up. Oldly, don't sell it. Under everyone's babbling, the old man named Leoli looked around and said mysteriously, I'm telling you, don't say anything. I listened to my kid. The sketch is stored by thunder and lightning. It is distributed based on the gossip situation. Leo OU, you should know best about the gossip map. What do you think the country does this for? Really? The gossip pattern. Old OU, what is this for? It should be prepared for later. If it's just a reserve of lightning, there is no need to do this. In this case, will there be projects afterwards? Having said this, Leo OU's expression was shocked, as if he had insight into something, and his mood instantly became excited. At the same time, the big horn of a certain university in Yanjing rang, and an important event announced that all students were gathered in the playground. Soon, in about 10 minutes, the students gathered on the playground. Everyone was talking about it. Any important things were announced. Hey, what did you say to suddenly gather for? I still have issues here, and I haven't done that. Me too. What's the matter? This is it the Raiden Reserve plan? A student suddenly lost his voice. Everyone be quiet. Just as everyone was talking about it, suddenly, the principal appeared on the highest platform with a microphone in his hand. As he spoke, his voice spread throughout the playground. All the students calmed down instantly, and everyone's eyes were on the principal. The principal paused, then took a look at the information in his hand and said passionately, I believe everyone knows a project that our country is going to launch recently, the Thunder and Lightning Reserve Program. I went, it really made me guess right. What did the principal say about this? Oh my god. Why is my mood agitated inexplicably? Then I tell everyone that this news is true, and the country is going to carry out a super great project. Thunder and Lightning Reserves. The term is only 3 years. So in response to this unprecedented problem, after the school and the National School Research Decision, a department will be established based on this Thunder and Lightning Reserve project. Raiden Reserve Department. What? Set up a department separately. What is this? What a big hand. It shouldn't be enough. My goodness. When everyone heard this news, many people were shocked. It is absolutely unprecedented to set up a department for a project. So, everyone is welcome to sign up. If you have confidence in yourself, you can join this department. At the same time, if you don't want to join the Raid and Reserve department, but students who are interested in it, they can choose their courses for study and research. For the next learning direction, it only takes 3 years. After national research, all learning focuses on the Lightning Reserve project. So, come on. After the principal finished speaking, everyone immediately had a lively discussion point. If they knew about this on TV, they thought that the country was just talking about it, but when the principal announced it, they knew that all the power that could be used in the future would be developed towards thunder and lightning. I want to sign up. Definitely sign up. Me too. I have to sign up too. Can research on the course. In other words, I can also participate in this project. Yes, as long as you are creative and brainy, you can participate. Then if it is adopted, does it mean that I have also contributed to the country? Yes, it's a pity. It's too difficult to reserve lightning. Otherwise it wouldn't be such a big move. There are students who are old-fashioned, but no matter what, everyone is very excited and proud to be able to participate in the Lightning Reserve project. Indirectly point in the next period of time, the whole country was mobilized and all fell into the Thunder and Lightning Reserve project, which was carried out vigorously. Chapter 263. In the next period of time, the whole country was mobilized and all fell into the Thunder and Lightning Reserve project, which was carried out vigorously. The dynamics are really too great. After all, this is a topic that has been thrown across the country. It is difficult to use the wisdom of the people across the country to overcome this problem and to conduct heated discussions in corners of the country. In this case, it is difficult to not want to pay attention. Point the Rose country and the Eagle country, like the East, are carrying out emergency repairs after the disaster. Since the disaster, Maximum of the Rose country has not rested much for 2 weeks. His eyes are full of red and blood, his face is pale, and he finally takes a breath and sits down. Maximum immediately remembered an important thing. Dongfang, what's going on in the East now? Is it the same as us, carrying out emergency repairs for disasters? The person being asked was speechless, because he was not in charge of this aspect, and then the other party respectfully said, Minister, I will call someone to come. Go. Maximum waved his hand. He felt a ball of cotton in his head, and he couldn't think about other important things at all. Point at this time, it was said that KOKO arrived at KOKO, and the subordinate responsible for paying attention to the East broke in without knocking the door. If this is normal, Maximum must blame it, but unfortunately, now he has no strength. Maximum just wants to rest. Take a good rest. Minister, I have something to report. Say, it's about the East. As soon as Maximum heard it, he cheered up. What happened to the East? Since Maximum knew that the East had successfully survived the superstorm and super hail devastating disasters, now he can do it calmly. When he hears the great news, the West's projects imitating the East were destroyed in these 2 disasters. The West also believes that the East will definitely not be able to resist this disaster. However, they did not expect that in the pictures sent by the satellites, the East continent is still guarded on the Earth over there and isolated. The wall and the glacier barrier were not destroyed in this disaster as for other construction projects or Eastern people. Pictures uploaded from satellites, blizzard chariots appeared on the vast land. Iceberg giant ships also appeared, and the new type of icebreaker aircraft carrier continued to fight against waves of giants. Wave point. When the report got here, Maximum could no longer listen. Point Maximum, including all Rosalanders, didn't want to admit that the gap between them and the East is getting bigger and bigger as time goes by. Point the reason is all because the East was 90 days in advance before the arrival of the Ice Age. Point. If they had made the most important choice, just like the East, now they will stand on the surface of the Rose Country East. This subordinate named Mark swallowed. From the time he first heard the news, he has finally been able to digest it. East, they want to start a project. What kind of project is going on in the East? How Maximum said tiredly, not surprised at all. The project to be launched in the east is incredible. Really incredible. What? Mark swallowed again, and then said, Dongfang has released a lightning reserve plan. Ray, what is Ray? Maximum didn't recover for the first time, and when he recovered, he immediately lost his voice. What are you talking about? The lightning reserve plan. Yes, the Raiden reserve program. The east released it a few days ago, and then announced it to the whole country, and advocated the participation of all people to overcome this problem together. Crazy. This is. Maximum abruptly got up from his chair. He roared, his forehead bursting with blue veins. Then Maximum seemed to have lost all his strength and fell heavily. What is a situation like this? Please tell me carefully, Minister. We only know this. Dongfang's next project will mainly focus on this lightning reserve, but we all know that it is impossible to realize the lightning reserve. Therefore, Dongfang handed this problem to the whole country. Minister, yes, they are impossible to achieve after a long time. Maximum said. Then Maximum said again, but we are deceiving ourselves. Maximum looked complicated and said, how is the East going to carry out this project? Then Maximum said again, by the way, I forgot, Dongfang is also gathering the power of the whole country to overcome this problem. Zero fine flowers, Minister. I think you need to take a break. The deputy minister next to him couldn't help but worry. Maximum himself didn't notice how confused his own thoughts were now. I know my current state. I know, right, Hems. Maximum mentioned Hems, the person in charge of the coal, who is also the builder, and is also a member of the Rose Country who is currently close to the east. As for Maximum, what he said is good. It is only their unilateral opinion. Hems was listed as a key concern by Maximum and others because he had a good relationship with the person in charge on the mouse. Hems is here, and when he knows the situation in the east, he is actually very emotional. Zero because just before the arrival of the superstorm, he persuaded Zhao Liang to return to the Rose Country with him. As a result, when the disaster passed, the buildings on the western surface were destroyed, and the buildings in the east stood on the surface. At the same time, just watching the broadcast video of the east, everyone can see a stunning scene. The giant launch pad continuously emits materials in the superstorm to freeze a superstorm, and they succeeded. This was never achieved in the civilization period. At that time, the technological reserves were more comprehensive and strengthened, but it was achieved during the Ice Age. In such a difficult environment, the East developed weapons to deal with superstorms. At the same time, he also developed a weapon that can deal with super hail in the event of a triple disaster. Tao Hao, Hems is even more yearning, and at the same time he expresses his admiration for the power of Eastern science and technology from his heart. But, sorry, Minister, I cannot agree to your request. Why? Hems, if I remember correctly, Dongfang has already rejected us 9 times, and did not agree to us until the last time. You hope that I can cooperate with Dongfang? I'm sorry, Minister, my personal ability is limited. Hems was really sorry, because he was telling the truth. Is there really no way for Hems? At least we need to know why the East is carrying out the Lightning Reserve project. Dongfang must have his intention to do this. Death. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264. Like the Rose Country, the Eagle Country was shocked to learn that the East was carrying out an impossible super project. Thunder Reserve. The ambitions of the East are very big. First, there are weapons that can freeze superstorms, as well as the technological power to defend against super hail, and now they are heading for impossible projects. But, this time, Dongfang is absolutely whimsical. On this earth, there is no container capable of carrying lightning. At the same time, the project has to be completed within the specified time, only 3 years. This is simply impossible. After the Eagle Nation Minister already knew the idea of the East again, he couldn't help but shook his head. Then, like the minister of the Rose Nation Maximum, he was curious about the intention of the East for the construction of this project. According to the experience of the 260 in the past, the East builds giant launch pads to resist superstorms, builds directional airships, and directional rockets to resist superhail, and hot blast furnaces, to resist falling cold air. Then, the Lightning Reserve project must also be to resist, convene a meeting for researchers in charge of meteorology, natural science, etc. Rodder's inspiration suddenly flashed point on July 1st, the 11th year of the Ice Age. Nearly a month has passed since the announcement of the infrastructure innovation and Lightning Reserve plan began on June 2nd. The nationwide discussion on the Lightning Reserve has not diminished in the slightest. In the past 1 month, the Lightning Reserve plan still occupied the top 5 hot searches. Someone proposed a Thunder and Lightning Reserve imagination and said that it was justified and evidenced on one of the hot searches. After digging deeply, this person's identity is just a college student. Although this imagination has been tested and failed, it also proves the East Side. The future reserve power is slowly rising. Rumbly a familiar voice rang again. Blizzard chariots set off from the city of Yanjing. The people sitting in the blizzard chariot were Ying Ziyue and Zhao Guofeng. Almost a month later, this is the first time Ying Ziyue and Zhao Guofeng have traveled. Ying Ziyue and other leaders started inspection work from Yanjing. They didn't choose the underground glacier tunnel because they couldn't directly observe the appearance above the surface at this moment. The sky is still dim. The sunshine time is still the same as before. The brightest time of the day is 12 noon. In the original weather of 180 degrees, the blizzard fell and cast a layer of crystals on the earth. At this moment, after the 2 disasters of superstorm and superhail passed, the snow began to decrease. Slowly from the blizzard transformed into heavy snow, and then transformed from heavy snow into light snow, mixed with increasing gusts, blowing, and bringing it to every place in the East. The sky is about to change. After that, old people often said. Although the environment at this moment is already very harsh. The living environment is cruel to the extreme, but the change from blizzard and the increasing cold wind seems to herald the next unusual. Sitting in the blizzard's chariot, everyone in midnight saw the outside environment, the same as when they came back from the giant launch pad. There are icebergs, glaciers and ice barriers everywhere. This is caused by a superstorm. At a glance, it seems to be back to the state of the previous ice age. But at that time, the green seaweed was full of glaciers, icebergs, and ice barriers. Under the extremely cruel environment, it was full of vitality. Now, because of the superstorm and superhail, the green seaweed, almost all seaweed, disappeared. In devastating disasters after that, the seeds were resown again. On the mainland, and in the cities, the old green dotted scenes began to reappear again. Everything will take time to recover. Sitting on the blizzard chariot, when Midnight felt the bumps from the blizzard chariot, and his mood was also ups and downs. After about half a day, they drove into the cross-sea bridge. After winning Midnight, this sea crossing bridge, which swayed in a superstorm with a stunning scene, still stands above the ground at this moment, like a long dragon hovering in the east. At a glance. In the west, the buildings were destroyed, but the sea crossing bridge across the 3 seas was unusually strong, allowing the storm to swept, flying in the cold wind, making a dull sound. After that, basketball-sized hail slammed on the sea crossing bridge, making a bang, zishing. The sea crossing bridge is constantly under attack. At the moment passing by, there are workers doing renovations. Busy zero. Workers commanded the crane and shouted loudly. There are also blizzard chariots transporting machinery to build cross-sea bridges. People standing on the bridge seem very small, and at a glance, the scene is very spectacular and great, so it is called a great super project by the East. Afterwards, as your eyes rotate, you can see artificial islands floating on the sea. Speaking of artificial islands, afterwards, Ying Ziyue came to artificial island number 3. As a branch of the ecological park, it received special attention just like the ecological parks on the mainland. Here, it is planted with fruits, vegetables, and various domestic animals. It also provides a variety of food for the East Point. When the superstorm came, the artificial island number 3 was not destroyed too much by the superstorm, because the location of the superstorm was already simulated, but the superhail, that followed destroyed everything on the artificial island number 3. However, after various key reinforcement, formed by the heat emitted by the scorching blast furnace, the super hail falls, and the power is greatly reduced. Therefore, in summary, the artificial island number 3 has only lost 20%. This is a great loss in the disaster. The person in charge of artificial island number 3 fortunately completed the mission to resist the disaster. The arrival of Win Midnight was warmly welcomed. When the residents of artificial island number 3 saw the guardian of a great country appearing on artificial island number 3, everyone put aside their work and scrambled to see the face of Win Midnight. But because of the oxygen mask, everyone did not see Win Midnight too clearly. In everyone's eyes, only the tall figure Win Midnight drifted away. "Chief, where do you go next?" Xiao Guofeng asked next to him. "It has been 3 days and 3 nights for everyone to patrol. Because of the formation of surface disasters and weather changes, a lot of time was wasted to patrol the whole country." At this moment, Xiao Guofeng originally thought that everyone went back to rest and went into other battles. He just listened. Ying Ziyue spoke. "There is one more place I haven't been to. Where to go? Change the means of transportation to travel by airship." Chapter 265. On July 5th, the 11th year of the Ice Age, a team of military green airships rose slowly from the surface and stopped at a minimum height of about 200 meters at this moment. Due to the continuous formation of strong winds, the airships swayed in the cold wind, and the people sitting in the airship could clearly hear the sound of the wind. In the extreme weather of minus 180 degrees, accompanied by the wind, this is probably only the East at this moment, can achieve freedom in the sky. Tweeted the chirping of birds came again. This time it was no longer a sound that appeared out of thin air, but a real occurrence. During the 11-year Ice Age, under extreme weather, birds appeared in the sky again, flying in the wind. The pilot in the airship watched a few white objects flying in front of him in surprise. His eyes widened in surprise. Immediately, there was a discussion in the airship. Xiao Guofeng, who was sitting next to Ying Ziyue, said, "I didn't expect to see birds appear in my lifetime. This 02 is really overtime. All animals are making changes to adapt to the current environment. Therefore, it is only a matter of time for birds to appear in the weather of minus 180 degrees, Ying Ziyue explained. Xiao Guofeng murmured a few times, still couldn't help being surprised. It's a pity that I didn't use a mobile phone to take the photo, or it would cause an uproar if it was posted online. Xiao Guofeng could imagine that kind of scene. He also knew the Life Species project. He originally thought it only included oceans and terrestrial animals. He didn't expect that one day the East would also realize life species in the sky. Xiao Guofeng couldn't help but imagined a picture. Maybe in another 10 years, the Earth will reappear. The civilization period. Animals and humans coexist, running and flying everywhere afterwards. Xiao Guofeng cast his gaze. From a height of 200 meters, a giant launch pad appeared in his line of sight from the surface. These 20 giant launch pads are very majestic and magnificent. They are not only used to resist superstorms, but also can be used as shelters. The giant launch pad, which can accommodate hundreds of thousands of people, is another scene when viewed from high above. In a patch of white, or full of ocean and sea water, these giant launch pads are showing a sharp sword trend, all pointing to the west. Let the sea water, or the cold wind beat on it. One by one is like a fortress, guarding this continent. It's so spectacular and shocking. The technological scene made Xiao Guofeng couldn't help but lose his temper. Xiao Guofeng once imagined that China will all enter the age of science and technology one day in the future, but it may take 100 years to realize the scene he imagined. But only 11 years of the Ice Age, the East has already made a big leap. Xiao Guofeng is very looking forward to the next development. The airship soon came to the center of the continent. Here, it used to be the base of Bicheng. Because of its location, whether it is economic, transportation, or safety considerations, there is no better city than Bicheng, except for Yanjing, which is also used as the capital. All along, the residents of North City have continued to develop, tirelessly offensive, and getting better and better. But at this moment, looking from the sky above the airship, Bicheng has become an empty city. Not only has it become an empty city, Bicheng has begun to be demolished. The place that Win Midnight said is exactly here. In the sketch given by Win Midnight, Bicheng is highlighted, and a supergiant lightning rod will be placed where Bicheng is located. I still remember that when all the professors and deans saw this sketch, everyone was shocked. The use of 2 cities to build giant launch pads is enough to become a feat that has never been seen in history. Unexpectedly, the feat afterwards will directly surpass the giant launch pad. When everyone saw the sketches about using a city to build lightning rods, everyone was shocked. Everyone didn't understand what they wanted to do with the idea of Win Midnight at that time. Ying Ziyue said, after the Earth entered the dense galaxy, according to simulations, every disaster the Earth greeted will surpass the past, and it will be devastating. In the following lightning disasters, it will also be its devastating. Therefore, the use of a city to build a giant lightning rod is also conceived based on extreme weather. This is really spectacular. I still remember what Xiao Guofeng kept repeating at the time, because he was mainly responsible for protecting Win Midnight, so he didn't know much about these aspects. When he knew the behavior of Win Midnight, he couldn't help but say now. Xiao Guofeng saw from the airship that the demolition of Bicheng has begun, starting from the edge of the city, and most of the west has been demolished, and Xiao Guofeng knew that this project was really going to be implemented, the supergiant lightning rod. As early as the demolition in this city, when Midnight had ordered people to move the people out of this city and disperse them to other cities in preparation for the subsequent demolition. The same is not just here. In the sketch, other lightning rods need to occupy the city's location. Other cities have also begun to move. The original city has become an empty city and began to be demolished. At this moment, the East is full of super projects, surpassing all civilization periods. The eastern continent was spared no effort to protect it, and at the same time, an order to open up the territory began to unfold in secret. But 3 years, isn't it too short? After sighing, Xiao Guofeng said hesitantly, 3 years is too short. Ying Ziyue answered. He got up from his seat and walked to the side window. With his hands on his back, he looked through the window and looked down. The North City is undergoing demolition. At a height of 200 meters, you can see the bottom. The crane tower is constantly operating, and everything is proceeding in an orderly manner. But will disaster leave us time? After the devastating thunder and lightning weather arrives, there will be even greater disasters. The East needs to do its best. Hearing what Ying Ziyue said, Xiao Guofeng couldn't help but stand in awe. I believe this problem will be solved. Our country is full of talented people, and it will definitely be able to solve it. But after the lightning reserve, if it is only used in daily life, is it a little overkill? Xiao Guofeng raised his own doubts. Everyone else has the same idea as Xiao Guofeng, and then they look to Win the Midnight. I saw that Ying Ziyue kept looking out the window with both hands on his back. It's not just that simple. In the following, I will tell you what is the purpose of this project. This will be a super project that is astonishing. Chapter 266. September 1, 11th year of the Ice Age. With the passage of time, the national engineering renovation is coming to an end, and all teams have begun to return to the voyage one after another, from the cross-sea bridge to the artificial island, and then from the artificial island to the mainland barrier. All the super projects are almost completed, and this has been 3 months. The Snow Country train rumbling, circling the country, transporting all kinds of living supplies to all parts of the East. Wherever you pass, you can see the mainland barrier, iceberg barrier, separation wall, and other buildings standing in the wind. Artificial islands drifting in the ocean. The hot air from the hot blast furnace collides with the cold air, forming a stunning scene. The wind power generator is whirling, and the tall fan blades are flying across the air. It looks very pretentious when seen from a distance. After the giant launch pad with a height of 100 meters completed its mission, it was used as a temporary shelter. Many blizzard vehicles or pedestrians passing by here could not help but stop. I looked at the giant launch pad covering 2 cities in Ore. When I personally came to it, I felt the greatness of this project even more. 20 giant launch pads, after the disaster passed, turned out to be special attractions. Many elementary and middle school students took blizzard chariots to watch them up close and appreciate the wisdom of the people from the East Point. Subsequently, the last team ended its refurbishment task on September 5th and began to return to the voyage. Banners were hung on Blizzard chariots, King Cheng Fleet, King Cheng 003 Fleet, King Cheng 010 Fleet, etc. Bright banners were floating in the air. Yi, who was in charge of the mission of the Yanjing team, took a last look at the city wall they were building against the clock, then waved and yelled, "Go home, Rumble." Immediately, Blizzard chariots started, one after another, lined up in a row, driving on the eastern surface, and then turning into the underground glacier tunnel. Part of the underground glacier tunnels collapsed, after being swept by superstorms and superhail. Therefore, some cities can only pass from the surface. Now, after renovation, all underground glacier tunnels are back to normal. At this moment, the underground glacier tunnels are restored again. Unobstructed traffic conditions. No matter how long you pass through the underground glacier tunnel, you will never get tired of it. The magical iceberg wall shone with crystal light, walking on it, as if you were in a magical kingdom. After about 4 hours, as the light in front gradually becomes clearer, King Cheng welcomes you into the eyes of the team. After another period of driving, the entrance of the cave in front was brighter. And finally, the first Blizzard chariot drove out of the entrance. King Cheng welcomes you. A few big characters are shining brightly under the light at the entrance of the cave. The team, that lasted for 3 months, has finally returned home at the same time. On the way, Yi received a new task in the West. After 3 months of renovation, the West has gradually begun to regain its vitality during the 11 years of the glacier. All countries have experienced too much. The methods they thought of in the face of disasters, how to deal with disasters, and reconstruction after disasters. All existing countries are forced to grow. The same is true for reconstruction in the West, which can also be described as a familiar road. The surviving Westerners numbly dealt with everything after the disaster. After a short period of time, the Western order returned. I still haven't found out why Danfang implemented the Thunder and Lightning Reserve Plan. Roddy stood in front of the window and asked. Wherever he looked, there was a busy scene. After experiencing endless disasters, the Western Eagle Nation did not return to the surface, but instead moved more underground. This is a helpless choice for everyone. When they faced the arrival of the Ice Age, in the first year, they had already lost. Roddy finally admitted that. As for the others, Roddy didn't know. At least for now, he is still the minister of the Eagle Nation. From the first year of the Ice Age, he led the people of the Eagle Nation until the 11th year. Sorry, Minister, we did our best. It is also possible that the East is just carrying out a simple mine and lightning reserve. It can't be that simple. After 3 months, there is still no intention of the Eastern Thunder and Lightning Reserve Plan, and Roddy is actually a little discouraged. Is it that the Eastern is just carrying out a simple lightning reserve? Keep asking me. Don't miss any news from the East. As for whether to continue the space station project next, you go find someone else to come over, hold a meeting, and then make a decision. Like the Eagle Nation, the Rose Nation could not figure out why the East implemented the Thunder and Lightning Reserve program. In response to this move in the East, Rose Country also simulated that in another 3 years, the Earth will face a lightning disaster, and this time lightning disaster, like a superstorm and superhail, will be devastating. Think about it. When the Earth was flooded with lightning, many buildings were made of conductive materials. It would be an extremely cruel and terrifying scene, and Maximum shivered deeply. Maximum made people continue to pay attention to the East, and he ordered that we must work out ways to avoid thunder and lightning and minimize the loss. On December 31st of the 12th year of the Ice Age, 1.5 years have passed since the Lightning Reserve Plan. In this year and a half, workers, college students, professors, and tutors have carried out vigorous research on the Lightning Reserve Plan. As long as you are creative and practicable, the country will support and invest resources in research, since the university has been open to the whole country. Everyone except students has put all their energy into it as a necessary course. Everyone wants to contribute to the country. This is yes, that's it. Oh my god. Wang Heyo, I did it. Pedestrians came and went on the street. There was a man with loose hair and his clothes were very dirty, and there was a faint smell. At first glance, the man who knew that he hadn't bathed for many days ran out and shouted. Everyone past the winter hurriedly past him. Point. Because of this scene, there have been no fewer than 100 incidents across the country. Point. Most of them were mad because they were locked up for studying the thunder and lightning reserve program. Point. It's so pathetic. Point. Now, everyone thought that this person was also crazy for studying the thunder and lightning reserve program, and they all shook their heads. I researched it out. I really researched it out. Hey, brother, stop screaming. You should have a good rest. There are passers-by. No, I really researched it out. Why don't you believe that? Yes, right. Reported to the top, and reported to the top. Chapter 267. This crazy person is Sun Wu. He graduated from Yenching University, and then went on to study for postgraduate and doctoral degrees. Later, because of the unpopular major of his choice, he could not find a job and stayed at home. Sun Wu has always been decadent because he felt that the books he had read for so many years were useless. He felt sorry for his parents and the country, so he stayed alive and unconsciously until a topic was released to the whole country. The Raiden Reserve Plan was released on the news, and then it was launched vigorously across the country. All those who are creative, brainstorming, and after research, if feasible, can apply to the country for resources to conduct research. After the project was released, the whole country joined in, and there was a wave of scientific research everywhere. It is difficult for Sun Wu to avoid it, because even a 7-year-old child is discussing it in the residential building's home. Over time, Sun Wu developed an idea. After this idea was generated, Sun Wu could no longer restrain himself from investing in the research on the lightning reserve plan. Reporting needs to go through layers of hurdles because it involves a super project and everyone treats it with a 200% attitude. In the long waiting process, there has never been a torment. 1 week later, blizzard chariot after blizzard came at the gate of the community where Sun Wu lived, attracting many people to watch. Everyone talked about why these blizzard tanks came from. Until someone rang the number of the building where Sun Wu lived. Hello, is this Sun Wu's house? Let's find Sun Wu, sitting in the blizzard chariot. Sun Wu woke up like a dream until long after he entered the underground research institute. Sun Wu's previous ambition was to one day be able to work in an underground research institute, and he has been struggling for it. However, the underground research institute gathers high-end talents from all over the country, basically professors and deans who are over half 100 years old and have rich experience, or there are geniuses with extreme talents in a certain field. So people like Sun Wu who are not particularly good are rejected. But he did not expect that Sun Wu would appear here one day, not to mention that the first time he came to the underground research institute, he would see the guardian of the great country who was not a few years older than him. When the midnight. After walking in, Sun Wu saw a tall and straight back like a pine and cypress standing on a cliff, cold and arrogant. Head of the team, the person you want to meet is here, Xiao Guofeng said on the side. At the same time, behind Sun Wu, several researchers and the person in charge of this project also came in. Everyone is looking to win the midnight, including Sun Wu. At this moment, Sun Wu didn't know that the person standing in front of him was the one who won the midnight. Sun Wu only felt that the battle in the room was really too big, which was disturbing. When Ying Ziyue turned around, Sun Wu recognized the other party at once. After all, at this moment, everyone in the country almost regarded this seldom appearing young guardian of the great country as a lifetime idol, and Sun Wu was no exception. Gosh, Sun Wu couldn't help but gaffe. Although Sun Wu had guessed some facts, he did not expect that Win Midnight would meet him directly. This is really exciting. Everyone in the room looked at Sun Wu with a smile and didn't blame him. Because not to mention Sun Wu, even they admire the young man before him very much. After Sun Wu regained his composure and won the midnight, he said, I have read your research. After discussion at the meeting, I will give you some resources for the next step of research. You are the other person in charge of this project. What do you need? Just apply with Xiao Yi, another person in charge. What Ying Ziyue said was Xiao Yi, another person in charge in the field, really can. When he heard this, Sun Wu couldn't help but gaffe again. Yes. Ying Ziyue said, I thought I was dreaming. You are not dreaming. I'm not dreaming. This is true. Sun Wu cried and laughed, because this reality was too sudden. Zhao Guofeng couldn't help but cough to remind Sun Wu, and said, don't you even believe what the head of the Underground Research Institute said? No, it's not. I'm just too excited. Sun Wu coughed several times. His face flushed, and his voice was trembling. There are talents from all generations, and a mountain is even higher than a mountain. The other old researchers present couldn't help but talk. Yes, this world will belong to these young people in the future. The hero is late. There is always time to leave. I believe that in this difficult environment, the potential of all talents will be stimulated 10 times. Yeah. Everyone's discussion reached Sun Wu's ears, and Sun Wu was even more excited. At the same time, his whole body suddenly became heavy. After the research is passed, it means that he will focus on participating in this project next. That is to say, part of the future of the country is in his hands. The nation's population of 1 billion, a huge number, is not just a number in textbooks. These are all living lives. The lives of 1 billion people. Sun Wu's expression turned serious. He raised his hand and said, even if my Sun Wu sacrifices himself, I will never fail the trust of the country, nor the trust of the team leader. It is good. Ying Ziyue said heavily. Then because of time, you must always be in the Underground Research Institute until the plan is completed, and everything is carried out in the Research Institute. Can you do it? No problem. The team leader. Even if it allows me to stay in the institute for a lifetime, I'm willing. My Sun Wu has always had a dream, that is, for everything I love, one day, I can personally return it. Now, it's finally time for the dream to come true. Sun Wu looked passionate, said, this is a proud thing. It not only returns to the motherland, but also represents that Sun Wu's ability can emerge from a population of more than 1 billion. Therefore, Sun Wu vowed that he will not fail the country's trust. Okay, it's so decided. Go down, the rest of you. Sun Wu and Zhao Yi stay, Ying Ziyue said, including Zhao Guofeng, also going out. The others looked at each other, and then they all followed out. Zhao Yi and Sun Wu were left. They were a little puzzled, and said, Chief, is there anything else? What I want to say next, you'd better be mentally prepared first, because what I want to say will mean that Eastern science and technology will directly take a big step and accelerate forward for 100 years. Chapter 268. On January 1, 13th year of the Ice Age, a heavy news circulated in the Underground Research Institute. The container carrying the lightning reserve has been researched out. Resources will be invested in implementation next. Boom, it was like a thunderstorm, which set off a storm in the Underground Research Institute. If this is true, it will mean something. It will mean that Eastern technology will take another step forward. No, a big step forward. Because of this difficult problem that could not be solved in the civilization period, almost all scientists predicted that it would take 10 years, even 50 years, or even 100 years to solve this problem. In the East, it only took 1.5 years to solve this worldwide problem. This is simply an unprecedented feat. This should be announced to the whole country and even the whole world immediately. If the world is still in the civilized period at this moment, everyone will be shocked and shocked. The power of thunder and lightning is infinite by the power of nature. The immense power of thunder and lightning can instantly raise a city, and all the hard work is destroyed. The talker is terrible, and the smell a discoloration. Therefore, everyone can only think of ways, such as researching lightning rods to avoid lightning and prevent disasters caused by lightning. There are also people who have tried to use the power of thunder and lightning in various situations such as daily life or military use. But the power of thunder and lightning is too great for humans to control. At least in the first 12 years of the Ice Age, humans can only avoid and resist the thunder and lightning. The power of science and technology is far from reaching the level that can store lightning, and now the East has overcome this difficulty. The container that can hold thunder and lightning is born. This nationally issued subject has finally achieved an important step. When people in the Underground Scientific Research Institute heard the news again, they were shocked, then excited, and then questioned, because situations like this had happened before, but they were all underground gossip rumors, saying who and who researched it. In fact, it is groundless. Everyone is ready to study for a long time. Maybe even if it takes 3 more years, it will not be able to solve this problem. Unexpectedly, it only took 1.5 years to study it. Is this news sure to be true? Who researched it? Oh my god, I heard you right. The most difficult problem in history was overcome by our East. This is great. I finally researched it out. Who is it? Which professor is it? Quickly, I want to see each other. How did he solve this problem? Oh my god, I heard it right. Is this true? On this day, the Underground Research Institute was very hot. Almost everyone was discussing this matter and had no intention of doing other research because this is really exciting. This difficult problem that the whole world thinks is difficult to overcome has been overcome. The news was true, and then it came out that the team leader personally checked the container that can hold the lightning reserve is under research and implementation. Then, an announcement spread throughout the Underground Research Institute. Scientists, researchers, professors, deans. One of the most important steps of the lightning reserve plan has been solved. Next, we will carry out a comprehensive study and implementation. There is only 1.5 years left before the planned time. So, after that, everything will be on the countdown schedule again. After the Earth entered the dense galaxy, all the disasters encountered were devastating disasters, from super tsunamis to extreme cold, and then to disasters such as superstorms and super hail. I believe everyone will know that in 1.5 years, the East will be what will happen. So please go all out and overcome the difficulties together. The news is really true. This is what everyone thinks. They are really excited. What does this mean? It means that the scientific and technological power of the East has made another big step forward. It means that the scientific and technological power of the East is getting stronger and stronger. It means that the East has grown rapidly during the Ice Age. If this continues, everyone can imagine that the East will surpass all previous civilization periods and will develop towards a future full of technological power. But this also means that the responsibility and pressure from everyone will also be greater. There is a saying that the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. The researchers of the Underground Research Institute occupies the best resources in the world at the moment. They have advanced thinking and top capabilities, and the destiny of the great powers is pinned on them! 0 Find flowers. This is really an important task. We will definitely go all out. The old researcher of the Underground Research Institute solemnly raised a military salute. His eyes were extremely firm, and his back was extremely straight at the moment. On January 15th, the 13th year of the Ice Age, after 14 days of overnight research, the first small lightning storage container was born. Previously, ideas were just put forward and models were established, but did not really enter the implementation due to lack of resources. The most indispensable thing for the Underground Research Institute is resources. Since the announcement on January 2nd, everyone has sacrificed their rest time and started to build the first small lightning storage container. The answer is feasible. A doctoral student from Danfangzi solved this historical problem. On January 25th of the 13th year, a second small lightning storage container was also born, which can hold stronger and fiercer lightning. On January 30th of the 13th year, the third tower was also born. Until February 10th. 2013, several other containers were also successfully implemented, which means that the East can fully implement the large-scale lightning storage container project in the future. It also means that it is time to let the public know this news. At this moment, in front of the residential building in one of the districts, there is still a group of old people. Before an old man surnamed O and other old people are discussing enthusiastically. Leoli, what is your kid up to lately? Why haven't you seen him in such a few days? This is asking. Don't you know that Leoli's child works in an underground research institute? Don't say you can't see the children. Even I can't. I asked him before, why didn't he see people for so many days? Guess what the kid said? Saying I'll know it then. What do I know? God is mysterious, the old man named Lee complained. Old Lee, how do I feel that your child has something to say? What's in it? This kid will be sold out. Big news, big news, big news. As he was talking, Leoli's grandson rushed over and yelled, big news, Grandpa, the lightning reserve plan is successful. Died. Chapter 269. The immature voice exploded like thunder, and all the old people in their 70s or 80s stood up abruptly, looking excited, and said, "What are you talking about? The Raiden Reserve plan has started. The thunder capacitor started construction. The East has solved the thunder and lightning reserve difficulties. Raiden Reserve means Dongfang technology has made another big step forward." Many headlines fly all over the East like wings on the day of February 10th. The whole country is filled with a festive atmosphere, such as the important holiday on January 1st every year. The whole country celebrates the news of the official implementation of the Raiden Reserve program has been rushed to pass on. Streets, alleys, residential buildings, factories, schools. The festive atmosphere lasted for a whole month. Sun Wu's alma mater, after learning that the historical problem was solved by Sun Wu, immediately convened a school-wide 263 memoir. The leading principal said excitedly, "As everyone knows, our thunder and lightning reserve problem has been solved, and the person who solves this most difficult problem in history is your senior, a grade 10 doctoral student who has graduated, Sun Wu." Although Sun Wu is not here, please applaud for senior Sun Wu. There was a wave of applause. Everyone's faces were filled with excitement, and there was a sense of proud. Everyone knows what a rare problem in the thunder and lightning reserve. During the civilization period, countless people studied this subject, but all of them ended in failure. Some people say that if you want to study the problem of thunder and lightning reserves, you need to advance science and technology for another 100 years to solve this problem. And today, this problem was solved by Sun Wu. Please applaud again. The applause rang out again. Student Sun Wu is very good, but even better is the guardian of our great country, a young man named Win Midnight. At a young age, he has led countless engineers, researchers, and scientists, and created several projects that can be permanently included in the glacier of civilization. Super project in history. I heard that the Thunder and Lightning Reserve was promoted by him. Please let us give him a warm applause for the last time. The applause advocated by the principal in the place where no one paid attention to Win the Midnight was more enthusiastic, louder, and rang longer than the previous two applauses, because Ying Ziyue is the idol of the whole school. In the corridor of the school, the first bound photo is him. Below the photo is full of Ying Ziyue's deeds. The 90-day countdown to the arrival of the Ice Age. The Snow City plan was born from the hands of Win Midnight. The eastern barrier of the mainland, the Snow Country train has appeared one after another. On January 5th, 11th year of the Ice Age, the giant launch pad plan to withstand superstorms was released, surpassing ancient times and unprecedented in history. On June 1st, the 11th year of the Ice Age, the Lightning Reserve plan was officially implemented. On February 11th, 13th of the Ice Age, the lightning storage container was successfully studied on the second day, and the next step is to be carried out nationwide. Started to produce all the materials for the Raiden Reserve, and the workers responsible for the installation and construction are waiting for it. Rumbling on February 12th, 13th year of the Ice Age, various mission plans were quickly passed to every person in charge, and they were unfolded at an extremely rapid pace. On February 13th, the 13th year of the Ice Age, the first line workers began to produce at full capacity. On February 20th, 13th year of the Ice Age, the production of the first batch of materials was completed. At 20 PM on February 20th, 13th year of the Ice Age, all blizzard tanks waited early at the gate of the factory. The huge iceberg ship was shining brightly under the light of the lighthouse, as the factory director took the lead and said, "Start loading." The loading of the first batch of production materials was completed at 3 AM on February 21st, 13th of the Ice Age. Set off. The person in charge of taking the lead shouted loudly. At the same time, the labor force responsible for the installation and construction quickly assembled from home in winter clothes and oxygen masks. Then blizzard chariots appeared at the assembly point. A total of 10,000 workers arrived at their assembly locations in just 10 minutes. It only took 10 minutes to count. Start getting in the car. With a violent wave, everyone started to get on the car in an orderly manner. In the process, no one made any protests, and no one made any whispers. Everyone's faces were full of dignity and solemn expressions. It took about 10 minutes for everyone to successfully board the blizzard chariot. Set off. The leader in charge shouted loudly, standing in front of the blizzard chariot led by the team, waving the flag in his hand, shouting, "Rumble!" The first blizzard chariot began to launch, and then the vehicles behind it seemed to cause a chain reaction, and then launched zero. Then the first blizzard chariot drove out slowly, and the following vehicles also drove off the ground. The first blizzard chariot began to accelerate, and then the following blizzard chariot began to accelerate. Rumbling and night mixed with strong winds. The air was extremely cold, and the weather of -180 degrees froze everything. As the vehicles started and drove away, one after another residents appeared in the front line of sight. They walked out of their homes at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then watched the team leave the city where they lived, and began to rush to the battle location. At this moment, you must return safely. Under the light, someone couldn't help yelling, "For the country, we must hold on, Dad. When I grow up, I will be like you too." All kinds of sounds drift away with the wind. Standing under the lighthouse, a member from every worker's family, or just an ordinary stranger. Everyone has too much emotion in their eyes, watching the team go away. Everyone is great, even an ordinary labor force, because without them, there would be no such super projects in the eastern continent. At 21 o'clock in the morning, at 21 o'clock in the 13th year of the Ice Age, all kinds of materials and workers almost arrived at the site where they were going to work. At this moment, the sky was dark, and the wind was blowing, mixed with snow foam, hitting everyone. Highly erected lighthouses illuminate this world, and blizzard chariots filled with materials, blizzard chariots filled with eastern workers, and huge iceberg ships parked on the surface. Ziyue, who was in charge of the construction, took a look at the ground surface of all the buildings that had been relocated and emptied at this moment, and then took another look at the time. Without any nonsense, Ziyue roared, "Go ahead, rumble!" At 7:15 am on February 21st, 13th year of the Ice Age, a silent battle kicked off. At the same time, after Dongfang solved the problem of thunder and lightning storage containers, a larger stage was slowly unfolded. Chapter 270. Bang 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 bang. The endless sea slapped back and forth, as if it had no end. The endless deep blue covers this planet, and most of the time when it covers the ocean, there is only darkness. Without the darkness of the stars and moon, only black clouds, and weather such as blizzards, lightning, hail, etc. occur from time to time. The disasters of the Ice Age wiped out all life on this planet step by step. Except for the east, west rosehip and eagle country, other parts of the sea, other places are like a dead sea. No life exists. For a long time, it is like a restricted area of life, full of danger. On March 1st, the 13th year of the Ice Age, on an unremarkable day, at one of the locations in the desert country's sea area, the sea broke apart with a bang. The precious sunshine poured down, and the words Zirachon in the light shining. Subsequently, the western Cole also appeared. When Cole saw the rat, the crew on board were no doubt very excited. Because in their eyes, the Orient mouse bears precious fruits and food that can be exchanged, and precious food that is hard to buy in the 13 years of the Ice Age. "Hi, my dear friend, met again." Hyams on the Cole personally connected to the rat's signal, and then said. About 10 minutes later, Hyams again came to the mouse with the resources he wanted to exchange. It was Zhao Liang. When Hyams saw Zhao Liang, he was very excited, and at the same time, very ashamed. Because seeing Zhao Liang, Hyams remembered what he said before the arrival of the superstorm. Hyams also persuaded Zhao Liang to return to the west with him to avoid this disaster. When the disaster strikes, when the west can only hide underground and shiver, and the surface is completely destroyed, all the buildings in the east are fighting, and they are used to resist the superstorm that is considered impossible to complete. Building or resistance succeeded. So, Hyams is ashamed. "Sorry, my friend, I should sincerely apologize to you. I should not despise your Eastern project. Facts have proved that your Eastern project not only resisted success, but also opened up a precedent in both the civilization period and the Ice Age. We should learn from you." Hems, you don't have to apologize to me. Actually, I didn't expect our Eastern project to be able to withstand hail and superstorms so successfully, Zhao Liang said proudly. Hems looked envious. If they had such an excellent project in the west, they would not hide all of them in the ground. faced with a lack of resources, all kinds of old age and sickness, and they would not see the light, and they would live surreptitiously. But everyone knows that the West is 90 days behind the East. And the gap has become unable to catch up due to disasters now. The West is unable to compete with the East in an increasing number of disasters. The West must first protect itself first, and this is what they should do at this stage. My friend, this time, not only do I want to exchange resources with you, but at the same time, I have a ruthless please. What? I want to go to the East to take a look. Him said that when he made this request. A broad picture appeared in his mind. The continental barrier that surrounds the entire 4,000 kilometers to the east is standing in the wind. A huge launch pad stands behind the continental barrier. When disaster strikes, it can withstand magnitude 10 earthquakes and tsunamis. The glacier barrier formed by iceberg glaciers is even more eye-catching. Hot blast furnaces and wind turbines are all working together for cities rumble. Listen, it is the sound of the snow country train traveling around the country, passing through the snow, fog, and storm, opening up roads, and going to the distance. The word Orient shines in the dark. China, on this continent, this country has a beautiful name. Its name is China. Sorry, Hyams, I'm afraid I can't agree to this request. Unexpectedly, when he was rejected, Hyams immediately said anxiously, why? I really want to go to the east to take a look. I really like this country, and I admire the country's engineering very much. I want to experience it myself. Now, what is the only country standing on the surface? Hims. Don't worry, this is not my personal rejection of you. It is the current Oriental, not suitable for welcoming outsiders. Why? Has Dongfang encountered any problems? No. It's not that we encountered any problems, but that we finally solved the problem, Zhao Liang said in a proud voice. Under Hyams' curious eyes, Zhao Liang coughed. Hams, before I say it, you'd better prepare yourself. What? Hyams looked puzzled. We Oriental solved the thunder and lightning reserve problem. He didn't come back to his senses until Hyams left the rats in a daze. In his mouth, he kept shouting, got. The heart spread out like a stormy sea. As the first person in the West to know that the East has solved the problem of thunder and lightning reserves, Hyams' mood at this moment is extremely complicated. Suddenly, Hyams had a thought. Why? He was not born in China. Why is he not from China? Why? It wasn't until this moment that Hyams truly admitted that the West is no longer an opponent of the East, and that the West has completely lost. On March 5th, 13th year of the Ice Age, when everything was racing against the clock, the countdown was all in progress. There was only more than a year left before the arrival of the thunder and lightning disaster. All scientific researchers worked day and night on the front line. Above, one room was brightly lit, and one of the rooms was written with Sun Wu, the person in charge of the lightning reserve room, and the same was true. At this moment, his face was exhausted. Wearing thick spectacles, he stared in front of him with written characters on various papers that could not understand formulas. When Sun Wu glanced over, it seemed like the first time he heard the task. Can't help being shocked. Comrade Sun Wu, next, you will not only be responsible for the thunder and lightning reserve plan task, but at the same time, there is a bigger task waiting for you. Comrade Sun Wu, are you willing to accept this task, head of the team? Sun Wu still said that, willing to go through fire and water for the country, and will not hesitate. It is good. Then the task I'm going to talk about next is temporarily classified as top secret, so don't tell anyone. When the time is up, everyone will naturally know. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271. On April 10th, 13th year of the Ice Age, it took about 50 days to produce the lightning storage container near Beicheng. In the sketch given by Win Midnight, this lightning capacitor is just one of them. Other lightning capacitors are scattered east in the form of gossip graphs. Go up and down, go from right to left. Wait, in addition to these 4 positions, There are also places such as Zedu, Shenzhen, etc., and the corresponding lightning storage containers will be established. Then in the middle is the original location of the North City, which is also the longest consuming building in the plan. A giant lightning rod will be built. The unprecedented giant, like the giant launch pad, will be used for construction of a city. No one asked about the sketch given by Ying Ziyue. What is the reason for applying the principle in this way, in front of the guardian of this great country? After witnessing his method, all people obeyed unconditionally. Rumble. A total of 10 blizzard chariots departed from Yanjing and passed through the underground glacier tunnel. After 4 or 5 hours of driving, they came to a city near the mainland barrier in Beicheng before the lightning storage container that had just been established because it occupied the thunder and lightning. The storage containers were demolished and urban residents moved to Beicheng or artificial islands, all scattered. I just drove out of the iceberg tunnel and drove about 20 kilometers again, and I saw a huge chimney-like building rising from the ground. Zhao Guofeng, who was sitting next to Ying Ziyue, was the first time he had seen a thunder and lightning reserve in 50 days, although the Underground Research Institute has established a small lightning storage device. It is nothing compared to the giant lightning storage device in front of you. Just like the giant launch pad, a city will be launched with a huge area and a height of 100 meters, which is 100 meters higher than the giant launch pad. Before it's near, you can feel the majestic and magnificent oncoming. Zhao Guofeng couldn't help but put forward again. Head of the team, what are you going to do to build such a large lightning storage container? The thunder and lightning energy that can be contained in the thunder and lightning storage container built by a city will reach a terrifying level. If the energy stored in this city is released, it will destroy this world. Just thinking about this picture, Zhao Guofeng couldn't help but shudder. Alright, I'm about to know. A smile appeared on the corner of Ying Ziyue's mouth, which was very mysterious. After the others looked at each other, they couldn't help but get excited. With such a huge power stored up, something more unimaginable must happen. When everyone thinks of the devastating disaster they faced when the previous super project was established, they couldn't help being more excited. They couldn't wait to know the follow-up planned by midnight when they finally reached the thunder and lightning storage container. Everyone couldn't help but gasp. Even if it was to win the midnight, I couldn't help but be surprised, because when I personally came into contact with this project, unlike my imagination, an epic shock hit my face. The lightning storage container is similar to steel, but not made of steel. The material used is made of many materials and has a volume that is not conductive. When the hand touches it, a warm feeling is transmitted from the palm of the hand. In the weather of -180 degrees, this kind of situation is too rare. People who don't know think that there are pipes laid in it, and the heat is formed by the scorching blast furnace. Click. Temporary elevator built next to the lightning storage container steadily stopped in front of them. The group of people glanced at each other, starting from Ying Ziyue. He took the lead to walk up, and then the others followed. In this way, the elevator carrying 30 people as the unit, slowly rising along the thunder and lightning storage container, and everyone's vision also changed. When the elevator rises to 50 meters, everyone can see the distance, a vast expanse of whiteness, and the cold wind blowing through the ears, mixed with snow foam. At the height of the ground, when the elevator rose to 80 meters, everyone was only under the protection of a seatbelt, looking down, and their calves were all spinning. Kangdang finally reached a distance of 100 meters. The elevator stopped. At this time, when everyone looked into the distance again, one could vaguely see icebergs and ice barriers and glaciers in the distance, dotted on this ice and snow continent. Winning the midnight head took the lead to get down from the elevator, with a seatbelt tied to his waist. At this moment, standing on a thunder and lightning storage container at a height of 100 meters, you can feel the bursting cold wind blowing by. People standing on it will definitely be blown away if they are not protected by a seatbelt. In this case, the labor force of Eastern workers builds from a 1-meter high building to a 100-meter building day after day. Under the harsh environment, a project was born. Against the cold wind, a solid feeling came from the soles of the feet. Everyone stepped on it, opened their eyes, and a vast and magnificent picture unfolded in front of everyone a few years later, when everyone recalled the scene they saw and everything they had experienced when they stepped on the thunder and lightning reserve. Their hearts were always surging, and they couldn't help shaking with excitement. The thickness of the wall of the lightning storage device can reach about 1000 meters, and it takes a lot of effort for people to walk on it to reach the edge of the opening of the lightning storage device. It took about 20 minutes of work, and against the cold wind, everyone appeared on the edge of the cave in trance, and then looked down. The dark picture appeared in the eyes of everyone, and then the sound of Bus Wang Zhao echoed in the hole. I will go. Even Zhao Guofeng, who had seen the big scene, couldn't help but exclaimed. The feeling of staring into the abyss made people tremble with fear and trembling. Zhao Guofeng took a look, then took a step back slightly. The other people also changed their faces. It's really great, spectacular, beyond the past. Even the most educated professors at the moment can't describe everything they see in any language, as if to swallow all of them present. I really can't imagine that another super project in our East has been born. Some professors recovered and couldn't help but exclaimed, yeah. It's really spectacular. I can already imagine that picture. Chapter 272. This is only the first lightning storage container in the East, and there are several others, all of which are under construction one by one. When all is built, when viewed from a high altitude, the scene is absolutely unforgettable. Our technology is developing rapidly, and I believe that in the near future, the East will definitely undergo changes beyond the past. There is a confident way of the professor winning. I couldn't help but glance at the old professor and said, if you say yes, you will definitely do. In the mind of Win Midnight, a grand plan slowly unfolded, and scenes of science fiction movies were staged in the mind of Win Midnight. The buzzing voices are still ringing, and the dark hole exudes a sense of technology. From a high altitude, a group of 30 people looks very small, so small that it can be ignored. The bursting cold wind was still blowing, mixed with snow foam, drifting into the distance. At this moment, the second lightning storage container corresponding to the first lightning storage container, Fengzun, is officially started. Clang, 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 rumbling. The violent cold wind blew across the sky and the dim sky. As time passed, night was about to come. In the 13th year of the Ice Age, the blizzard turned into light snow, and then gradually reduced from light snow. Finally, the wind became stronger and the snow less and less, blowing on people's body. The extreme -180 degrees. Under the circumstances, the people in the East put on thick winter clothes and oxygen masks again. At this moment, cranes are resting on the surface, and they are constantly pulling something up from below. There were ice bodies and fresh mud, all of which were carried up from the openings that had slowly formed. Zhao Yi, the person in charge of this task, is standing beside him. In front of him, there are a total of 30 persons in charge, who are in charge of the second Thunder and Lightning Reserve. At this moment, Zhao Yi is explaining their precautions. Wait for the question. During the orthogonal generation process, suddenly, the courier of one of the persons in charge rang, and under Zhao Yi's gesture, this person picked up the courier. Captain, there is a resource found below, but we don't know what it is. Please come down and take a look. I will go down when we finish the meeting. The captain, surnamed Li, said that he would then report the situation to Zhao Yi. When Zhao Yi heard it, he raised his eyebrows and then said, stop the meeting first. What should the others do? Laoli, follow me down to see if any resources have been unearthed. The surface of the lightning storage container located in the direction of Fengzun is in the wild. Therefore, there is no need to relocate here. It is only necessary to remove the icebergs and glaciers above the surface. The formation of it is constantly digging out. Eastern workers call it a gift from nature. Zhao Yi, the person in charge, surnamed Li, and several other workers took the temporary elevator and began to dive underground. Zhao Yi's vision gradually became blurred, but this was only a drop of about 10 meters. It stopped at a position about 50 meters underground. At this moment, the temporary lighthouse illuminates the sky and the earth, while other places are completely dark without the light from the lighthouse point. The sound of ding ding dang dang in my ears, overwhelming the sound of the whirring wind. In this situation at a depth of 50 meters, everyone's inner fear disappeared without a trace. The person in charge, here you are, the person in charge. Look, what kind of resource is this? I don't understand. Ziyue took his gloves and took a small handful of mound mixed with blue gravel and observed it carefully. Point in my ears. The sound of ping pong clanging continued. Point the underground continues to open up, moving downward from a height of 50 meters, 60 meters, 70 meters, and so on. Point in the end, Ziyue didn't recognize what resource it was. He asked all these mounds of blue gravel to be carried up, arranged in a location, and waited for the results of the Underground Research Institute. Point, and he patrolled the underground world. The underground world created for the lightning storage container, aside from the height of 100 meters on the surface and 500 meters deep underground, it is an extremely magnificent project. It was so spectacular, Ziyue couldn't help but sigh. Point, it occupies the area of a city, 500 meters deep underground, and a total height of 600 meters. How many powerful lightning can be accommodated in such a space? Ziyue couldn't help but imagine the picture. In the storage container, countless lightning raged and intertwined, like a fantasy. The scenes that appeared when they were all released, the eastern continent would cease to exist. Ziyue's mind suddenly appeared in his mind that when midnight, in front of him and Sun Wu, was listed as a top secret mission, earth-shattering, beyond the highest level that can be achieved by current science and technology, and he couldn't help it, shaking all over, caused by excitement. This is absolutely an unprecedented project, surpassing the giant launch pad, surpassing the thunder and lightning storage container, and a magnificent project. Point, similarly, the difficulty has increased exponentially, 10 times more difficult than the lightning storage container. If this project is born, it will represent that the East has directly entered the ranks of future science and technology. And it also represents that the East has taken the first step in future science and technology. Ziyue was excited for a while before he calmed down. Point, the person in charge next to him cast a curious look and asked, "Chief in charge, what's the matter with you?" Ziyue glanced at him and said, "It's nothing." Ziyue continued to patrol the underground very calmly. The sound of ping pong pong sounded from his ears. Ziyue watched the land in front of him decrease inch by inch. The countless workers and labor force were busy and everything was arranged in an orderly manner. Is going on. It is absolutely a pride and a very enjoyable thing to witness the formation of a super project with your own eyes, not to mention that I'm still a main person in charge. It's like raising a child, wishing to devote all my effort, even the rest time, and then seeing the results begin to appear to the final product. The old father's joy is flooded. Heart. I, Ziyue, can participate in such a project, and I have no regrets in this life. Ziyue sighed. Point, then he raised his head. There were snowflakes falling down, and there were 2 more drops of water at the corner of his eyes. The second thunder and lightning storage container was also born on April 30th, 13th year of the Ice Age. Point, after that, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th were all born quickly. Point, lasting until August 11th. 2013, 8 lightning storage containers in the form of gossip in different directions in the East were all completed. Chapter 273. Lasting until August 11th, 2013, 8 lightning storage containers in the form of gossip in different directions in the East were all completed. On August 12th, the 13th year of the Ice Age, when the people of the East waited early in front of the TV, they were full of excitement and longing. Point, because just a few days ago, they learned that the trembling thunder and lightning storage containers that made everyone excited are all finished. The large thunder and lightning reserve container that has plagued everyone for a long time was born. Point, everyone is sitting in front of the TV and waiting for this moment, waiting to witness it with their own eyes. The thunder and lightning storage container. Just when the hour hand has not officially pointed to 12 o'clock, everyone has been quietly waiting in front of the TV. Whether it is an old man or a child or a person who is working, they have stopped their work and they are right in their hands. What to do? Everyone has a vertical countdown 10, 9, 8, 71. Hello everyone, I'm a reporter from Oriental News, Lee Xin. I'm very happy to meet you. At the same time, I'm even more happy that I will witness the formation of another super project with you. As we all know, thunder and lightning are extremely powerful, which can destroy a city or forest vegetation. They are extremely powerful. In the face of thunder and lightning, everyone in the civilization period thought about how to defend and how to avoid them. Therefore, lightning rods were born. Over time, technology has become more and more advanced, so some people have developed ideas, wanting to take the thunder and lightning as their own and use it in life or in military weapons, but without exception, everyone failed because the power of thunder and lightning is too strong. There is no container that can store lightning power. Someone once predicted that it would take 50 years of advancement for scientific and technological power to develop lightning storage containers, but just today, the East uses deeds to prove to the world's only remaining human beings and countries that have passed away that the East does not need 50 years in such a difficult Ice Age environment. 2 years are enough. Next, please join me in witnessing what is called the Eastern engineering, the birth of the lightning storage container. Wow, as the camera turned, a cloud of clouds blocked the camera. At this moment, it was 200 meters above the sky. The storm was blowing. The military green airship flew in the cold wind. The camera swayed and was quickly frozen. As the clouds shifted, a clear scene soon appeared in front of reporter Lee Xin and others at the scene, as well as all the people in the East in front of the TV point. Then, from the high altitude camera, everyone saw a dark hole facing them. The thunder and lightning storage container used for the construction of a city is 100 meters high on the surface and 500 meters deep underground, like an abyss, deeply showing its horror to everyone. Someone yelled in front of the TV, and everyone was shocked when they saw this giant lightning storage container with their own eyes. It's too big, it's spectacular. The people in the East watched from the TV, as if a large hole had been hit by a meteorite on the earth. In fact, it was just the opening of the thunder and lightning storage container. Because the opening was too deep, from a high altitude, it was dark and there was no light. I don't know how much it spread inside. As a reporter, Lee Xin is on the front line. When he saw the thunder and lightning storage container with his own eyes, the dark hole opened his mouth like a beast, and like an abyss, he wanted to swallow the world. Lee Xin couldn't help being dizzy. Almost fainted on the front line, but fortunately, he was pulled by someone in the end to avoid falling to the ground with a soft foot. Oh my god, comrades, have you seen it? This is our Oriental project. It is too, madam, and spectacular, Lee Xin said excitedly. I believe you in front of the TV will tremble when you see your heart at first sight. If you are on the scene, you will be like me. It is more than trembling. It makes people. I am a tall student. I can't find any language to describe this super project in front of me. Now, let us take a closer look. The airship stopped at the lowest altitude of 200 meters, and the camera dropped 50 meters. When it dropped to 50 meters, the sound in the camera changed, like the roar of beasts rushing toward your face. Bang! This was caused by the wind at the entrance of the cave, but the people did not know that when they first heard this sound, almost everyone was taken aback. Oh my god, what's the matter? Zero fine flowers, it's scary. What happened? Looking at it up close, it is really shocking. I really want to go to the scene. Is this our Oriental project? My goodness, it's so spectacular. It's horrible. It's horrible. Oh my god. In front of the TV, all the people in the East were shocked and almost speechless. Everything in front of you is not a movie, but a real thing. An epic, a heroic, and a powerful technological force are coming. At this moment, the air seemed to be still, and the whistling wind disappeared without a trace. In the lens, there was only the only picture left, which was recorded in the eternal history. The total height of this lightning storage container is 600 meters. The height of the ground surface is 100 meters. The depth of the ground is 500 meters. And the thickness of the wall of the lightning storage container is 1000 meters. It's cool, but I also said it after reading the introduction. Next, let me personally lead everyone to get in touch with this super project 360 degrees, Lee Xin said excitedly. Point protected by the safety belt. He took advantage of the situation from 200 meters high, and the whirling high wind almost drove Lee Xin away. Point at this moment, Lee Xin realized what bungee jumping is. With the camera he brought to him, he realized what it means to shake the heaven and the earth. Similarly, the people in the East also experienced it. This difficult environment is unique. Point. When Lee Xin got closer and closer to the destination, so did the people in the East. When Lee Xin's foot touched the surface of the lightning reserve, a burst of electric current seemed to pass through Lee Xin's body. Point. Lee Xin stabilized as the world was spinning, and he couldn't see the end at a glance. Point. A sense of vastness rushed towards Lee Xin. Point. On this day, August 12, 13th year of the Ice Age, everyone followed the reporters to witness the greatness of the thunder and lightning storage container, witness the Eastern wisdom, witness what cohesion is, what is unity, and what is the firewood of everyone. At the same time, the greatest and most spectacular part of this project is under construction. Death Chapter 274. Rumble. At this moment, the original address of Beijing has been emptied, and a piece of brown land is in sight. Point. In the Ice Age of a vast icy world, this scene is very rare. The long-lost earthy breath filled the earth, as if the civilization had returned. From the satellite, it looked like a brown eye appeared on the earth, expanding in an almost circular manner. The entire city of Beijing was moved and demolished, and finally a big circle was formed. Point. Just a few days ago, construction started here continuously, day and night, using cranes and mechas. After the demolition of the North City was completed, the icebergs and glaciers here were eradicated, and the vigorous development was carried out. Finally, the long-lost brown ground was exposed to the air. Booming blizzard. 270 chariots appeared here. The leading blizzard chariot opened, and Zhao Yi and other responsible persons appeared here. Point. When Zhao Yi saw the brown surface, a different kind of emotion suddenly appeared in his eyes. For a long time, I haven't seen the true face of the surface. Yeah, there are icebergs and ice barriers everywhere. The land is covered. The whole world is a piece of white. I have really seen enough white in my life. Another person in charge said. Point. The world should be colorful, so that it is the real world and represents the vitality of this world. When there is only one color left in the world, it means that disasters have come to this world, just like the Ice Age at this moment, full of all kinds of extinction disasters. Looking around, it was white, mixed with strong wind, and the whole picture became hazy. Point. And in this dim space, there is a color of green and red quietly all over the continent. When will it arrive? Zhao Yi asked. We will be there in about 10 minutes. Raising his hand, the person in charge, surnamed Liu, said. Point. Zhao Yi said, and walked forward with a serious face. After walking for a long time, he suddenly stopped. Then he probed, and a huge abyss appeared in front of Zhao Yi. Point. Click. A stone rolled down and was quickly caught in the wind without making any sound. Point. The depth of the abyss is about 800 meters, which is 200 meters higher than the depth of the thunder and lightning storage container. The whistling wind is coming from the ground along with the wind, rushing towards the sky. Point. Zhao Yi took his gaze back after only one glance. A faint sensation spread all over his body. Zhao Yi's surface was calm and no one could see how strange he was at the moment. Point. It's the other people in charge who dare not even look at it, because they have seen it before and almost fell down. This feeling is like being on the edge of a cliff, but compared to the edge of the cliff, there is not the slightest light in the cave, and it is dark. The opening of the hole that can't be seen at a glance, as if to swallow everything around it. Everyone dared not even look at the abyss at the second glance, and the labor force of the Eastern workers has devoted tremendous effort. Point. The depth of the underground abyss, which is 800 meters high, is formed by the cooperation of humans and machines. In many places, workers are required to be tied up with ropes and dive into the abyss to operate. In this process, every time it is carried out, it is a challenge to everyone's spirit and spirit will. How long will it be? Zhao Yi said. Soon as he said, booming a sound came from far and near. As everyone looked around, a huge iceberg giant ship appeared in everyone's field of vision. Point. Above the huge iceberg ship, a huge lightning rod fragment made of special materials is carried and headed here. Then, the second giant iceberg ship appeared. And likewise, a huge piece of debris was also carried and headed here. The third, the fourth, the fifth, all the giant iceberg ships from various cities appeared here, and countless giant iceberg ships flooded the original North City residences. This is the only time that all the giant iceberg ships as for the assembled engineering tasks. From a high altitude, countless huge amphibious iceberg giant ships are side by side or closely behind, all in order. The scene looks very spectacular and shocking. Ziyue's eyes changed again. He looked at everything in front of him obsessively. Under the dim sky, these huge iceberg ships shone with crystal light, just like a fleet of warriors. Invincible. The national power is so strong. As a Chinese, he is really proud. After all the huge iceberg ships stopped, the leader first greeted Ziyue, and then began to count. This is a task that must be carried out every time, because it involves the formation of super projects. Even the small screws must be listed on the list. It took 5 minutes to count the iceberg ships that arrived, with a terrifying efficiency. With the passage of the Ice Age, everyone is accustomed to it, because time is life. The person in charge, a total of 120 giant iceberg ships, all arrived safely. A strong voice rang out, "Zero. Okay, I've worked hard. Start counting the supplies." Ziyue spoke loudly without any nonsense. "Yes, start to count the materials." Loud voices rang through the communicator, and countless workers seemed to come out of thin air and began to count the materials. "Look, just 10 minutes after the material count, a person in charge said." Ziyue looked up, and an army green airship appeared in the air among them. The most eye-catching thing is the things carried under the airship. Pieces of huge lightning rod fragments, appearing in everyone's field of vision. Airships gathered from various cities began to report. Ziyue looked at all of this. Transportation on the ground and transportation in the sky. Pieces of huge lightning rod fragments were shining, and Ziyue immediately showed a great picture in his mind. This picture is a supergiant lightning rod constructed from a city standing high on the surface of the east. The violent cold wind blew through the lightning rod without leaving a trace. When the weather was gloomy, dark clouds shrouded, and thunder and lightning flashed in it. Then it split towards the lightning rod. Just thinking of the beginning, Ziyue couldn't help trembling all over, which is really shocking. After about a few hours, all the materials were unloaded, and all the inventory was completed. Without any omissions, Ziyue waved his hand. Start construction. On December 31st of the Ice Age. There is still half a year before the final period. Dongfang, are you really installing a giant lightning rod? At this moment, inside Rose, Maximum stood up excitedly and said, Chapter 275. Dongfang, are you really installing a giant lightning rod? At this moment, in the Rose country, Maximum looked excited. The room was depressed, and the faces of all the people present were full of surprise, shock, incredible, and excitement. At the same time, there is jealousy. Yes, all the lightning storage containers in the east have been installed. The subordinates who reported the news could not conceal their inner surprise and shock. Because in their opinion, the problem that the West and the whole world cannot solve, even if it is impossible to solve the problem in 10 or 20 years, the East has actually solved it. This is really incredible. Arsehole, Maximum couldn't help but cursed. His entire face was distorted, but soon he regained his composure. We know the news is too late. How did Dongfang solve this problem? It's not fake, is it? Did the East really develop a lightning storage container? Maybe it is possible, but the power of thunder and lightning is too great. Maybe the East is just researching alternatives. Yes. It's possible. Everyone was chattering. Maximum listened in his ears. 02 did not interrupt. In fact, they knew it was too late, because the news was blocked. They didn't know that Dongfang was working on a super project that they thought was impossible to complete. When Hyams had contact with Zhao Liang, the person in charge of the rat, Zhao Liang was mysteriously talking about this. Zhao Liang told Hyams that they had solved a thunder and lightning reserve problem, but did not tell Hyams that they not only solved the thunder and lightning reserve problem, but also established a huge lightning storage container and a huge lightning rod that occupies a city. This is really a magnificent project. As long as you think about it, the picture will spread in your mind. Everyone couldn't help but gasp again and again. Does the Eagle Nation know? Marks asked after a long time. Eagle Country. Roddy is almost the same as Rose Country and only recently received news from the East. Nowadays, as time goes by, although everything is gradually improving due to the intensification of various severe weather, it is becoming more and more difficult to transmit information. When Roddy learned the news again, he fell into a long silence. On the contrary, the other high-level staff all boiled like a frying pan, and they all talked about everything. The high levels did not believe this fact. With Roddy's long silence, they closed their mouths and finally, reluctantly accepted this fact. On their desks, clear pictures reflected their faces in reverse light. The whole of the thunder and lightning storage container was shining with a dark light, like a black hole, swallowing everything around it. There are a total of 8. According to the news from the West, a city like this was used to build lightning storage containers, and a total of 8 were built in the East. They are scattered in different locations, guarding the entire eastern continent in a circle. The East has long been awakened in the face of disasters, so we in the West must not lag behind. Instead of continuing to discuss the East, it is better to fully open up technology, recruit talents, comprehensively improve fertility, and solve fertility problems in response to the next disaster. Only in this way will the Eagle Nation have a better place in the future. There are still 3 countries on the earth: China, the Rose Country, and the Eagle Country occupying the eastern continent. In the future, the competition of these 3 countries will be involved again. Therefore, within the following measures, we will comprehensively enhance the strength of the entire Eagle Nation, disperse all resources, redistribute them, and put population first. In the end, Roddy said decisively, "What, do you want to allocate resources to those people at the bottom?" A senior executive of the Eagle Country immediately said loudly. In their West, especially the West in the Ice Age, the distribution of resources is extremely uneven, and at the same time, they are divided into various classes. This also causes the bottom population, as the most solid force of the Eagle Nation, to receive unfair treatment due to resource problems. The grievances spread. This is impossible. The people at the bottom are just the people at the bottom, and they don't deserve to have more resources. There are high-level officials who speak bluntly. The main reason is that our country's resources are very scarce. If redistributed, it will cause changes in other links. So a senior said tactfully, "Don't think I don't know what you are thinking. When is it all? You just want to enjoy your life, but forget the situation of our Eagle Country at this moment. If no changes are made, the Eagle Nation will disappear on this land sooner or later." Roddy raised his hand, patted the table, made a huge noise, and then continued. "You know everything in your heart. I don't want to say anything. Now I will give you 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, vote." After 5 minutes have passed on January 1st, the 14th year of the Ice Age, changes were finally made to the Eagle Nation's national-oriented measures, which also determined the future direction of the Eagle Nation. The Eagle Nation and the Rose Nation strive to catch up with the East, but the East has far surpassed them, and is using the resources available on the Earth, combining technology and developing rapidly. On March 1st, 2070, the 13th year of the Ice Age, there were 3 months left before the final delivery time. Whirring at this moment, the entire eastern surface is flooded by a storm. With the passage of time, the wind is getting stronger and stronger, and the visibility has also changed because of the increase in the storm. Now, if it is not because of the importance, many people in the East choose to stay in their houses and no longer travel. In this bad weather, blizzard chariots appeared on the Cross-Sea Bridge. They use the Cross-Sea Bridge to save a lot of time and distance to the original address of beaching. The people on the blizzard chariot at the moment are the ones who beat midnight. The reason why they did not choose an airship to travel was because as the storm increased, the airship flew in the air, and there were many uncertain dangers. Therefore, they chose the powerful tonnage and upgraded blizzard chariot. When midnight sat inside the blizzard tank, and you could see the outside situation through the blizzard tank's window. As the blizzard's chariot moved forward, the wind slapped on the window, and the sight of when midnight became more and more blurred outside. Buzzing. The wind was blowing on the Cross-Sea Bridge, passing by the thick steel guardrail, making a dull sound. "The wind is blowing." Winning Midnight suddenly said. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.